Cadenas, a mighty military force, keeping the peace for this vast empire. Each legion among Cadenas, 7 knightly orders, wields military power on par with a mid-sized nation. The purest-blooded descendants of the Cadenas are said to have dragon blood flowing through them. True to the name Golden Dragon, they're born with shimmering golden hair and eyes, carrying within them the bloodline of dragons, the emblem of noble dragons. Young dragons gather here to awaken that latent power, from mainline heirs who can use a superpower called an attribute, thanks to concentrated blood, to the branch-line youths who are doing their utmost to surpass their limits. All of them are testing their mettle and sharpening their skill. Right here at the Cadenas training grounds, William tightened his grip on the sword, stepped back, and steadied himself. Opposite him, Burita decisively launched her next counterattack. After a while, it seemed he hadn't taken a scratch. She also halted, staying in place, breathing hard to recover. While fighting, many thoughts raced through Burita's mind. No way, I always thought even if we teamed up we'd still win against the number 1, right? She glanced at Leonard sitting in a corner, sighing, how on earth did number 4 get wiped out in an instant like that? Facing the next assault, she gritted her teeth, raised her sword, pouring every ounce of strength into defending. But in that split second, a blurred figure suddenly tore through the air with terrifying speed. Burita froze, her pupils shrank with fright, and only a helpless curse escaped her mind. Damn it, I couldn't see his movement at all. In the end, Burita collapsed to her knees as William delivered a cold remark. You two teamed up, and that's all you could manage. Unbelievable, the fact that we're all awakened with direct line attributes. You're no match for me. Pathetic, no better than the trash of the branch lines. Well, anyway, it all ends here. I am the winner of this selection. At the headquarters of Cadenas, young dragon knights, Fabian stood before the observation system that monitored the entire match and commented, the trainees' skills this round are very impressive. So, who do you think deserves the special rank? The assistant cast his eyes down and offered his opinion. Indeed, there are many promising young talents this time, but only one is qualified. And that's number 1, William. Even when number 2 and number 4 attacked together, they couldn't lay a finger on him. He nodded and continued in a low voice. If I recall, numbers 2 and 4 are also direct line heirs, right? The assistant confirmed that was correct. Fabian then asked, what about the others? He reported seriously that the branch lines have been almost entirely wiped out by now. Only a few survived by following squads led by the main lines. Hearing this, he formed his own conclusion. Indeed, the bloodline wall is insurmountable. In this training ground, the numbers are the measure of strength. In other words, number 1 represents the strongest among the hundreds of trainees. So it's only natural that number 1 is chosen as the special rank. Fabian made the decision, and this time there was no need for further debate. The assistant agreed and finalized it. Then we'll appoint William to the special rank. Bruno, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up and cut through everyone's thoughts. Wait a moment, let's watch a little longer. Fabian was surprised, gave a small exclamation and asked, why is that? Bruno looked his counterpart straight in the eye and presented his view seriously. Actually, there's still one branch line member who's very different. I believe after watching his skill, it's not too late for you to decide. Hearing that, Fabian seemed piqued with curiosity and continued with a question. What's his entry number? Bruno immediately answered without hesitation. He's number 25. Fabian nodded slightly and murmured, I see. So even among the branch lines, there are those who quietly build strength to climb the ranks. Number 25 is certainly outstanding, but he still doesn't quite meet my expectation. However, since the chief instructor himself said so, there must be a good reason. He mumbled the name of number 25, Leonard Cadenas. Bruno continued, explaining that Leonard suddenly burst into the spotlight a few days ago and defeated any trainee who stood in his way. In a short time, he climbed from rank 381 straight up to 25. The assistant beside them looked skeptical and cut in. Surely you're joking. Bruno tipped his chin and said, look at the screen. Right now is when he's facing number 1. At that moment, Leonard was confronting William head-on. He spoke arrogantly, number 25. You've got some nerve showing up here, huh? Come to surrender. Sorry, I'm not in the mood to go easy on you. Leonard wasn't intimidated or fazed. He replied casually, fine by me. Then I have no reason to hold back. At that provocation, William's pupils widened in surprise. William tightened his grip on his sword, bristling with murderous intent as he stepped forward and declared, trash like you dares. Draw your sword, I'll teach you a lesson. Leonard sized him up and formed his own opinion. I get it, that number 1 title isn't just for show. The pressure radiating from him is nothing like the others. He regained his confidence and curled his lip in anticipation. All right then, let's see. Leonard pointed his sword at William and said, come on then, I'm the one who's going to teach you a lesson. he told himself, to see how far he could go with his current strength. With that, William decisively leapt into the air, forming a downward strike from above. Leonard remained unnervingly calm, silently watching the figure hurtling down with terrifying speed. William let out a roar, resolved as he swung his sword hard. "I'll crush you along with this blade." Meanwhile, Leonard showed no flicker of expression, standing as if William's murderous intent couldn't ruffle him. Then Leonard raised his sword with both hands to block the sky-crashing blow, producing a powerful shockwave that spread all around. In that situation, William was momentarily stunned. The two blades collided head-on in an instant. Then Leonard gave a light flick and was able to fling him back. William staggered his footing and had to struggle hard just to keep his body from toppling back. Leonard coldly looked at him and spoke. "My sword doesn't break easily in the hands of a trainee like you." Having said that, he thrust his sword forward and smirked with confidence. William didn't stop. He sliced through the air and launched a series of consecutive attacks. However, every strike was narrowly dodged by Leonard. Watching the display, Bradley excitedly praised, "A rather rare sword style. Seems it's not the orthodox Kadina's swordsmanship. Still, I'm surprised. Not a single wasted movement. He's parrying every attack with minimal force. And he hasn't even launched a real counter-strike yet." After a tussle, Leonard calmly landed. Opposite him, William shouted in anger, "You little antworm. Only good at running away, huh?" With that, he swung his sword fiercely, creating a terrifying force line that sent Leonard's body flying backward. Amid the turbulent air, Leonard held his defensive stance from start to finish. His feet scraped violently against the ground to check his retreat and steady his body. Moments later, the atmosphere seemed to freeze as both Leonard and William simultaneously unleashed their latent energy. William's power surged like a raging storm as he attacked. In contrast, Leonard remained eerily calm. He stood there quietly, ready to receive the rolling energy that threatened to swallow everything. After a while, Leonard leisurely landed in front of William. He brushed the dust off his trousers, strolled forward step by step, and casually remarked, "The power you're putting out is pretty impressive." Contrary to that composure, William couldn't keep calm. He wildly swung his sword and launched another barrage of attacks. Leonard tilted aside to narrowly avoid the razor-sharp blade, while his opponent's angry voice rang in his ear. "You coward who only runs around and yet talk big. Fight seriously." Leonard said little. He simply lightly leapt to one side to keep his distance. He stared at William, thinking, strength is one thing, but his judgment isn't bad either. Observing his opponent spiraling into frenzy, he calmly concluded, "But what he still lacks is the sense and experience honed on the edge between life and death. No matter how outstanding a trainee he is, this is his limit." William suddenly froze. What? After the unexpected blow, he lost momentum and had great difficulty regaining his composure. The onlookers outside were all stunned. "No way, that guy's fighting toe-to-toe with number 1. Is he really number 25? It feels like he's become a completely different person." Leonard's pupils lit up like lightning. He landed nimbly and accelerated his movement. William gritted his teeth in fury. "Damn it, I've lost his trail." When he saw Leonard closing in at his feet, William was momentarily stunned. "When did you appear?" William gaped in astonishment and cried out, "Unbelievable. How could someone like you possibly?" Without much back and forth, Leonard faintly curled a smile and declared, "You lost, number 1. Having said that, he mercilessly slashed a powerful stream of energy toward William. He was hit, his eyes rolled back in pain, and blood gushed from his esophagus. This would have been impossible for the old Leonard, yet all his memories have now returned. Fragments of past life memories of Leonard Kadina, the man once praised as the greatest sword emperor in the world. Ren, the man who lived for his sword alone. With a single stroke, he could easily cleave the sky, reach a realm capable of destroying towering mountains, and arrogantly claim the title of Sword Emperor. However, that still wasn't enough for him. In the end, he decided to challenge the heavenly demon, the one said to be the strongest of the era. That life-or-death battle raged on relentlessly for days. Its ferocity exceeded human limits. They say the aftershocks from that clash even altered the maps of that land. And in the end, amid the desolation and the blood-red glow of the moon, two silhouettes silently faced each other. Leonard, his body battered, gasped and demanded, "I don't understand. My swordsmanship had reached perfection, hadn't it? Why?" He pressed the heavenly demon with many puzzled questions. "Why couldn't my sword even touch you?" The man listened and merely curled a lip. "Because of the most basic thing. You never truly understood the true nature of the sword. Daring to stake your life and fight to this extent, you are impressive. Yet the neglect of the very basics ultimately became the fatal flaw that led to your defeat." Leonard tightened his grip on the sword and snarled, "Me lacking the basics. The insult sounded ridiculous and worn out. The heavenly demon abruptly cut him off. Nonsense. How could a mongrel dog of a man fight me to this level? That's impressive enough. When you fall, the legend of the name Ren will close in humiliating defeat. I grant you your last respect. Rest in peace. You who were once worshipped as the Sword Emperor. In the end, Leonard gave up. He lay on the ground and lamented, never expecting it to end so easily. If only he could do it over once more. Would my sword be able to touch you? And so, the legend of the Sword Emperor Ren ended in total defeat. But at that moment, a new legend was about to begin in a place no one expected. Night fell, and under the full moon there was buzzing chatter. Really? Is he even breathing? Damn, should we go fetch an instructor? After the stupor, Leonard jolted awake. He looked around in a panic. What the heck is this? Leonard panted, steadying his body. That dream again, someone nearby shouted, still alive and grinning. I thought you were dead. He glanced up at the crowd in front of him. But something felt off. Seeing Leonard unresponsive, the one opposite tossed a line. Fine, as long as you're okay. Then he nimbly launched a punch at Leonard, shouting, finish what you started earlier. You scared us to death, you mutt. At that, Leonard's whole body stiffened in surprise. Leonard rose and gently grabbed the attacker's arm without using any strength. The attacker halted, stared blankly at Leonard. The other two standing outside had the same look. It blocked the strike. Even more surprised was Leonard. He widened his eyes, thinking, my body reacted on its own. What the heck is happening? The opponent's wrist trembled under Leonard's grip. He pulled his hand back, drew his sword, and swore, this damned brat. The man took a running start and dashed at Leonard. Don't get cocky, that was just a one-time fluke, got it? With that, he swung hard, but Leonard leaned aside in time to dodge. This time there was no denying it. The man shouted in shock. It dodged again. He looked at his own sword arm, thinking to himself that his body was acting on instinct. Next, Leonard spun around with practiced finesse and decisively delivered a finishing move that left his opponent in such pain his eyes rolled back. After dropping the target, Leonard assessed the situation. It's as if something is guiding each movement of mine. On this side, the gray-haired guy cried out in disbelief. Impossible. The brown-haired one added, this isn't luck, he's toying with us like prey. The gray-haired man hurriedly denied it to reassure himself. Must be a joke. How could the one who couldn't even fight back before suddenly be like this? The other nodded in agreement. It's like he turned into a completely different person. Then his face went pale. I don't understand what's happening anymore. The brown-haired man took a ready stance, reminding his comrades to be careful. Hey, don't be a coward. Wasn't he the useless guy we beat to a pulp just now? Saying that, the brown-haired man leaped up and swung his sword. Let's go finish him off. Leonard suddenly smiled. So that's it. Now I understand. I've remembered everything. As he charged in, Leonard decisively struck, sending the man's body flying back. Then Leonard used the momentum to spring into the air and heaved a clean sword stroke downwards, ending it all. With the group dealt with, Leonard calmly sheathed his sword. All this time he'd been plagued by those strange dreams. Dreams of a man standing beneath a blood-red sky, fighting with flowing robes and white hair. Those dreams tormented Leonard so much he couldn't focus on training. He'd hated them for a long time, but now his mind was completely clear. The life and death of that man were vivid as if on display. Hard to believe, but there was only one conclusion. He confidently declared, I am the reincarnation of Ren, the Sword Emperor from another world. Leonard looked at his hands and muttered in surprise, unbelievable, reincarnation really exists. Staring at the starry night sky, he wondered if his final desperate wish had come true. Suddenly, Leonard furrowed his brow and glanced down at his arm, lamenting the soreness despite only swinging the sword a few times. It was the consequence of years of practicing incorrectly. Leonard's expression turned serious. He clenched his fist and made a firm resolution. With these memories and top-tier techniques, I'll become boundlessly strong. Whoever granted Leonard this chance is unknown, but whether it's fate or coincidence doesn't matter. Ren from the previous life couldn't achieve the ultimate goal, but present-day Leonard will surely make it happen. He will become the strongest Sword Emperor, surpassing his former self. Cut to inside the Cadina's training grounds, wherein the hush murmurs rose. Those three are already injured. They'll be useless in the upcoming field exercise. A bunch of trainees had gathered in a corner to figure out what to do. The black-haired guy curled a lip and commented, our combat strength will drop a bit, but it's no big deal. It won't ruin the plan. This field exercise will be a piece of cake. Suddenly someone cut in, making him turn his head. The other continued, I heard the one who took out those three was alone, number 381. I heard it was over in the blink of an eye. What were the ranks of the three beat? They were numbers 329, 257, and 133. He protested nervously, higher ranked than I thought. Did number 381 really handle them alone? If someone like that joins another faction, the current balance of power will. Before he could finish, the scene before him froze him in place. William, radiating killing intent, pointed the tip of his sword at him and warned, "Watch your mouth. You think I'd be swayed by trash like that?" Number 381, right. Bring a few people to fetch him here. I'll personally see if he's really a card worth playing. In Leonard's mind, the heavenly demon's words echoed again. I'll treat this as a farewell gift sending you to the other world. The reason you couldn't reach a higher realm is that you began cultivating internal power too late. In the 5 elements, fundamentals and balance are paramount. If you built that foundation from childhood, perhaps the outcome would have been different. Leonard grasped the truth of the matter. His gaze grew deeper and more determined than ever. While channeling his energy, he silently affirmed, "Indeed, by the time I started internal training in my previous life, the golden age had already passed. But if I start laying a solid foundation from this age." Immediately, a blazing blue energy began swirling fiercely around his body like a powerful sphere of light. Leonard decided on the next step. First, I need to create a body capable of absorbing mana. He sat motionless at the center of an ancient formation, his whole body wrapped in surging azure spiritual force, cleansing and regenerating each blood vessel. After a while, the energy stabilized. Leonard looked at his hands. Success. He clenched his fist, despite being the best in his past life. At this age, he still felt his internal strength was woefully insufficient. Leonard glanced at the crest hanging on the wall and wondered, so what's the Cadina's bloodline all about anyway? In the dining hall, trainees were lining up to get food. Leonard ate heartily, thinking to himself, these dishes aren't bad at all. Growing up requires proper nutrition. I mustn't skip any meals. Lost in thought, someone called out and snapped Leonard back. Number 381. I heard about the fight yesterday. Didn't expect you to be so hot-headed. You usually eat like a cat, so why are you eating so well today? You cleared your plate. Hearing the call, he turned and asked, "You're number 8, right?" The guy immediately shook his head in denial. "No, I'm number 7 now." The guy tossed his chin smugly. "I just knocked out number 7 the other day." Leonard casually wiped his mouth, quietly grasping the rule here. If you win a challenge, you steal the higher rank. As if remembering something, he asked, "Anyway, did you need me for something?" He cheerfully shared, "Why so cold? I actually came to bring you good news. Don't you feel the atmosphere's been getting tense lately? The high-rank crowd is quietly expanding their turf. You know how it is, numbers 1, 2, and 4 are." Leonard calmly pulled out a chair and stood up. He carried his tray toward the kitchen and replied, "I know. Diamond-eyed gold, direct descendants of the Cadinas, right?" Noticing the group behind eavesdropping, number 7 whispered, "Keep it down before someone hears, watch your mouth." Leonard didn't beat around the bush and said seriously, "Cut to the chase." He clutched his head in exasperation and complained, "God, are you stupid or crazy? Suddenly you're like a completely different person." Sweat began to run down his face. Seeing Leonard about to walk away, the self-proclaimed number 7 mustered courage and blurted out, "Listen, they have reasons for expanding their power. If we don't band together, we won't survive." He paused and added, "So what do you want me to do?" He stepped closer and said earnestly, "Out of 100 people, more than half have surrendered to their side. But there's no rule stopping minor lines from forming gangs, right? The current plan is I'll team up with higher-ranked guys like number 3 and number 9, if you chip in a hand." Leonard shook his head flatly and replied, "I refuse. I have no intention of joining any faction. Anyway, your info was useful. Consider me owing you this time." At Leonard's reaction, number 7 was utterly bewildered. He muttered, "Did this guy hit his head somewhere? This certainly isn't the number 381 I knew." Under the sunset, the golden badge with a deep red gem at its center glittered against the black flag, exuding the solemnity and nobility of a prestigious house. Leonard maintained a composed demeanor, strolling leisurely down the long corridor. He suddenly stopped, glanced back, and asked the other casually, "Do you need me for something?" The other approached with a provocative tone, "Of course I do." "Good food, huh, number 381. I've got a mountain of things I want to tell you." He pointed his sharp sword at him and reminded, "Big brother number 1 wants to see you. Yesterday's uproar will be overlooked as an exception. Seeing you refuse number 7's invite, Big brother number 1 seems rather impressed with you." Hearing this, Leonard thought, has everything here already leaked to number 1? These kids take their little organizations way too seriously, huh? He lifted his foot and continued walking forward. Before leaving, Leonard tossed back one line, "I don't care, disappear and save me the trouble." The blonde couldn't hold back and lunged. "What did you say? Trash of the lowest kind daring to mouth off." The other likewise shouted angrily, "I'll make you regret those words." From start to finish, Leonard stood still, as if the scene before him wasn't enough to shake his resolute mind. As the opponent swung his sword, Leonard nimbly leaned aside to dodge, thinking. He closed that gap with a single step. For someone this age to have that physique is extraordinary. He clenched his fist and began channeling, the energy inside his body surging violently. Right after that buildup, Leonard decisively launched a powerful punch aimed straight at his opponent's face with unstoppable speed. The man broke out in cold sweat, teeth clenched in shock. Bare hands, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Then the brown-haired guy was distracted by a wooden sword whizzing past. Seizing the moment of his lapse, Leonard drove a hard punch into his stomach that doubled him over in pain. The blow even sent the numbered badge on his chest flying off. Leonard watched its arc and remarked, "Not top tier, but number 157's skill is respectable." Just as I thought, this Cadina's bloodline definitely hides something. With the brown-haired guy dealt with, Leonard glanced at the other and said, "Looks like you've realized you don't stand a chance, huh? Want to keep going?" The other tightened his grip on the sword's hilt, teeth grinding. "Shut up, I'm way stronger than you. Don't get cocky and act superior, come at me." After checking his badge, Leonard shot off like the wind. Got it. Before he knew it, Leonard was right behind him, swinging his fist and declaring, "Fine then, have it your way." In the sudden silence, a sharp, cracking sound rang out, cold and decisive like the bell that ends a duel. The numbered badge on the chest was flung straight up into the air by the force. Above, a mysterious figure had witnessed the whole thing. He toyed with his target as if it were a joke. Fuguro's lips curled in excitement. Has he been hiding his strength all this time? I still can't figure him out. For someone who traffics in information, his background was actually far too plain. Then Fuguro suddenly froze. Did we just lock eyes? From this distance, he still noticed someone watching. Ah well, whatever. This looks like it's about to be a spectacular overthrow. Hopefully no tired old tricks this time. I'm counting on you, number 98. At present, Leonard Cadenas had climbed up to position, number 98. In the corridor, people hurriedly ran by, urging, "Move it. Number 98 is heading to the training ground." One guy ran so fast he barreled into Burita coming the other way and stammered, "Sorry, Big Brother number 1 ordered me to capture number 98 at all costs. I'm in a rush." Burita stopped and asked coldly, "Number 1 told you to catch number 98. I heard there's been a lot of rebels lately. Looks like it's true." At the training ground, the atmosphere was extremely lively. Burita glanced around and assessed, so number 1's lackeys were just defeated. Those guys are supposed to be pretty skilled too. After taking a few steps, a figure was knocked flying past her, causing a little surprise. Before Burita now, Leonard was standing alone against William's men. "Shut up and be smart. Join our team, kid." He steadied himself, frowning in annoyance as he repeated, "I said I refuse. Number 1 may be strong, but is he stupid or what? How many times do I have to tell you?" With that, Leonard launched another move to take down the man in front of him. While the man was distracted, Leonard swiftly snatched the badge off his chest. Once it was over, Leonard coldly said, "I'll take your rank, thanks." The man could only grit his teeth and curse in helplessness. Having watched the whole show, Burita calmly walked over to him. She smiled and cheerfully said, "Congratulations, you've climbed to position number 25 now." Leonard asked back in surprise, "You know me?" Burita reclaimed her icy demeanor, eyes piercing through him. "No, but I can see through you. From that strange body to the flow of energy inside. And even the number 25 you're holding." Hearing that, Leonard stepped closer and murmured, "Clairvoyance, huh? Quite an interesting ability." He put a hand to his chin, thinking, if she can see internal energy, she's at least at the mind's eye level. At her age, the mind's eye pierces a person's true self and intentions, a deadly weapon when facing stronger foes. Truly a fearsome power for someone ranked number 2. As if remembering something, Burita asked, "Hey, why do you hate forming teams so much? I don't think you can get through tomorrow's training alone." While the two were talking, William stepped in and cut them off. "Hey, that's enough. Are you stupid? Planning to spill everything to him, are you?" He showed no mercy and stepped on the arm of the lackey lying on the ground. William tightened his sword, voice cold and murderous. "In the end, I have to come here myself. What a bunch of trash. Can't even handle something this small." Listening to him, Leonard finally realized, so this is that famous number 1. His presence is no joke. He also stepped toward him and replied coldly, "I'm curious what kind of person you are." Leonard stopped, killing intent radiating. "So we finally meet, number 1. I still have fight left in me. Want to try a match?" Seeing that challenge, William angrily snapped, "Who do you think you're talking to?" Watching the scene, Burita couldn't help clutching her stomach with laughter. She wiped a tear from her eye and chimed in, "You're entertaining. It's the first time I've seen someone speak to number 1 like that. Is everyone done here? Looks like number 25 doesn't want to follow anyone. Training starts tomorrow." William turned to leave, but before he was out of sight, he coldly warned, Don't regret angering me. Number 25. Leonard replied nonchalantly without a second thought, be my guest. Then he squinted slightly, thinking to himself that this information should have been known only to direct descendants. A training that requires trainees Chinese letter, recruit allies. So tomorrow will be a cooperative exercise. In a clearing deep in the forest, Bluno curiously asked the person opposite, have all the trainees gathered? The assistant instructor raised his hand respectfully and reported, report, everyone is present. However, when forming teams, a rather strange trainee showed up. He calmly demanded, give me the details. The assistant composed himself and recounted, sir, he joined the training alone, didn't join any group. Bluno was a little surprised. Alone, did you clearly explain the exercise content? The assistant instructor nodded in confirmation. Yes, sir. It's a field excursion in the Great Cadina's forest. During the exercise, they must handle lodging, gather food, and hunt on their own, completely self-sufficient. We've also announced there is no limit to team size. As predicted, the other trainees had already formed factions under the 4 leaders. The largest group was Team A, led by number 1. Next was Team B under number 2, the second largest. Team C consisted of trainees who weren't of direct lineage. Team D, led by number 4, focused mainly on tactics. And Team E, led by number 483, gathered those whom no one else wanted. The assistant instructor paused for a moment, and upon scanning Leonard's resume, he blurted out, number 25, Leonard Cadenas. He forms Team F all by himself. Leonard was meanwhile eyeing the situation, sizing everything up. This training ground is huge. To make use of the terrain, I should secure a base early. Number 25. It was unclear when Bluno had appeared. He came up to him and asked, that's all you packed? Looks like just some water and a few biscuits to tide you over. It might be fine now, but are you sure you can hold out? Leonard glanced over and replied casually, yes, no problem. Isn't the point of this exercise to survive and be self-sufficient? He thought to himself that, in reality, this was just a scramble for ranking tokens. In the sudden quiet, footsteps drew closer. Dylan interrupted them. May I speak privately with number 25 for a moment, Master Bluno? After all, going into the woods alone is dangerous in many ways. If you're willing, number 25, would you like to join Team D? Leonard replied with contempt, get lost, none of your business. He glanced at the fallen beast behind him and assessed, typical sly type, acts concerned, but plans to use me and toss me aside once danger comes. Seeing Leonard unmoved, Dylan tried to persuade, honestly, I don't get what you're thinking. Other teams have at least dozens. Team A has over 100. I think it's a decent offer for you. He stuck to his stance and shot back bluntly. You don't have to understand, and I owe you no explanation. I'm simply not interested in your little group picnic. Watching this, Dylan found his answer. Now I see why number 1 hates you so much. Same type hates each other. That arrogance of yours, you'll regret it. If you won't listen, I'll have to use force to persuade you. Consider this my way of gaining the upper hand in the exercise. Sorry, not sorry. With that, he accelerated rapidly toward Leonard. Although smiling, he carried a latent, deadly threat. Dylan repeated, join my team. Then he decisively swung his sword hard at. When he realized his strike had been dodged, Dylan cried in disbelief. What? He dodged my attack. On the other side, Leonard had already taken stance, ready to attack. In an instant, he leapt into the air and coldly remarked, odd footwork. Then Leonard decisively swung his hand and struck the back of Dylan's neck with a crushing blow. Watching him collapse, he thought, even when swinging his sword, I couldn't sense any killing intent or hostility from him. Has he reached the level of a supreme assassin at this age? Thud, Dylan's body hit the ground, echoing loudly across the silent space. Immediately after, a hand quietly rested on his shoulder. Bluno commended in a deep voice, nice reflexes, number 25. However, since this wasn't an official match, the promotion won't be recognized. Fine, as the smallest group, I'll allow you to set out. Leonard nodded in reply, understood, master. Observing him for a moment, he thought to himself, that head instructor, I couldn't sense his presence at all. He really is powerful. Even in my past life, I'd have trouble facing people like this. No wonder they're the continent's top sword family. So young and already showing such outstanding talent. So many geniuses appearing at once. There must be some secret in the Cadina's bloodline. Leonard accelerated forward with terrifying speed. He seriously told himself, for now focus on the training. First priority, find a prime shelter. In the haze of dust, a voice rang out. Are you number 25? At that moment, surveillance systems began to appear before Bluno. He sternly reminded, report your status as soon as you begin. The assistant instructor respectfully reported, yes, this time the groups clashed unusually early. Team A under number 1 attacked Team C as soon as they entered the forest. Instead of searching for a base, Team C was caught off guard and utterly defeated. Heavy, rapid footsteps thudded on the dry ground. The assistant calmly continued detailing the battle. Except for number 3 who luckily escaped, the rest were wiped out. Hearing this, he nodded excitedly. Interesting. I thought he was the cautious type, didn't expect such a quick ambush. The assistant added, indeed, it's understandable given their overwhelming number. Bluno put his hand on his chin and pondered. However, he certainly didn't rely on numbers alone. Team A is so large they'll face supply issues if a prolonged fight occurs. He used his numbers to strike preemptively, while others hadn't stabilized their formation. Instead of seeking shelter as usual, William chose a surprise attack. That shows he's not only strong but tactically sharp. Bluno then shifted focus. All right, report on teams B and D. The assistant checked the system and calmly said, after seeing Team C's defeat, teams B and D decided to ally. Their common goal is to take down the strongest, number 1. He seemed pleased with the result. Bluno curved a lip, a wise decision. These trainees reacted faster than the previous cohort. They look promising. And the remaining groups are under your supervision, right? Give me your report, Instructor Colin. She'd been silent until called. Colin nodded and answered clearly, yes, Master Bluno. Team E hasn't made any significant progress after electing a leader. But as for number 25 of Team F, I truly don't know where to even begin explaining. A flash of memory came. While she was watching from afar, Leonard suddenly called out Instructor Colin's name. Colin was slightly stunned in surprise. She thought, did he just call my name? My stealth technique is top tier among the instructors. Leonard wasted no words, glanced at her and asked, I have a question. Hearing that, Colin was certain of what she'd suspected. The boy had discovered her long ago. Finally, she dropped down from the tree to the ground. Colin folded her arms and replied, all right, what do you want to ask, number 25? Leonard glanced to one side and shared, as you can see. It seems this cave already has an owner, but I'd like to use it to rest for the night. Is this creature kept by the Cadina's family? I'm worried that if I accidentally wound or kill it, it'll cause trouble. Colin observed Diagoff and thought to herself that yes, it was a wolf domesticated by the Cadina's family and fairly safe. But a normal trainee couldn't take it down. If something happens, I'll jump in to save him and see if he's bluffed. Thinking one thing, she answered another. No problem, it's part of the challenge. If you beat it, you're free to take the cave as a sleeping spot or store it. That is, provided you can defeat it. The moment it saw the two figures, Diagoff began to snarl in anger. It let out a roar and lunged swiftly toward Leonard. Sensing imminent danger, he gripped his sword ready. For a pet, your skills are pretty good. Fine, I'll go easy on you a bit. Leonard decisively struck Diagoff and declared confidently, I can't find a better place to sleep than this. Sorry about that. It took the hit and ground its teeth in pain. Diagoff dragged its paws across the ground to barely keep its balance. Its pupils flared with fury. Diagoff let out a thunderous snarl. Then it erupted with primal power, a strong green energy radiating through the area. From start to finish, Leonard calmly watched and assessed. Killing intent, has it lost control? If I go easy and get wounded, the instructor will be in trouble too. Leonard tightened his grip on the hilt and accelerated toward Diagoff. This might sting a bit. He swiftly hurled the blade into the underside of its jaw. Next, Leonard spun and performed a mid-air somersault, confidently declaring, I'm not easy prey for you. With that, he finished everything with a powerful knee strike. Seeing the scene, Colin was stunned. He took it down in the blink of an eye. I didn't even need to step in to help. Is this really the strength of a trainee? After the struggle, the atmosphere returned to its usual calm. Contrasting its earlier ferocity, Diagoff now behaved like a well-trained pet, obedient to his commands. Wait, Leonard pointed and ordered, sit down. It immediately plopped down with a naive look. He continued, give me your paw. Diagoff didn't resist and extended its claw toward Leonard. He murmured praise, good boy. He stroked it and then turned to suggest to Colin, Instructor Colin, since it seems attached to me, may I bring it along for the exercise? She didn't answer immediately but thought, that strength, that decisive no hesitation. If someone like that tamed Diagoff then, Colin cautiously replied, that's a bit hard to accept. However, taming it does prove your capability. I'll agree, but with conditions. It is forbidden to let it participate in battles. Using it for transport or scouting is allowed. Leonard adjusted his collar and answered, I planned that from the start. Before leaving, Colin added, then keep an eye on it, don't let it harm the other trainees. Having settled everything, he narrowed his eyes slightly and said, that technique seems pretty useful. Now shall we start the real training? You go find food. After moving for a while, Leonard stopped and made a decision. A fork in the road, split into two groups. If you find anything interesting, bring it back. doesn't have to be food. With that, Leonard and Diogov quickly went their separate ways. On this side, a gloomy voice made number 438 flinch in fear. All done then. He stumbled back, muttering, "Monster." William shoved his hands into his pockets, scanned the scene, and sneered. These trash can call themselves Cadina's blood. They're hopeless. But the card holders are already full anyway. You're lucky this time. Next time we meet, I'll take you out immediately. Number 438 trembled with anger. He cursed inwardly. Damn it. Who would have thought Team E together still couldn't beat him alone? I knew from the start we had no chance, but at this rate we'll just be someone else's prey. I didn't want this. I was forced to be leader. What am I supposed to do now? Number 438's gaze stopped at the rear, and the team members timidly asked, "Captain, what should we do now?" One of them piped up, "We're lucky to be spared this time, but if another group attacks, we're done. Is that really how we end?" Number 438 tried to pull himself together and reassure everyone. "Come on, cheer up and go find something to eat. If we hide and wait for a chance, maybe we still have an opportunity." Just then one guy's face went pale. "What is that?" Number 438 followed his teammates' gaze. Why were they all so terrified? Before them, with no warning, a giant bear had appeared. He worried, "We're about to become beast food." Number 438 despairingly exclaimed, "This kind of death is so unfair." Suddenly, a series of heavy footsteps thundered closer. Leonard, full of vigor, closed in right behind the beast. Number 438 screamed a warning in fear. It seemed the bear noticed too, and glared back angrily. Before it had a chance to strike, Leonard decisively delivered the finishing blow. Under the pressure radiating from him, number 438 steadied himself. He suddenly shouted, "You are." Before number 438 now stood Leonard, proudly standing atop the fallen beast. He blurted out, "Number 25. Seeing Leonard's calm demeanor, number 438 muttered in disgust, "Cold-blooded. What else are you going to steal from us now?" He looked at the fallen animal and felt regret. Our food for the next few days was gone. Number 438 sulked, not noticing Leonard approaching, still swearing under his breath, "You're truly a heartless monster." Leonard came closer and asked, "Are you all okay?" Number 438 was a bit dazed by his concern. Leonard slowly repeated, "I'm asking if you're hurt." Number 438 stammered, "I'm not injured." Hearing that, Leonard turned his back and left decisively. "That's good then." Number 438, puzzled by this action, cried, "Wait, aren't you going to steal our cards?" Leonard turned back casually and replied, "I just dropped by because the situation looked dangerous." His words surprised everyone. "My goal isn't winning or losing but training myself. I get my own food and I don't care about the cards." Leonard bluntly stated his stance. "Besides, if I wanted to win, I'd pick a more worthy opponent." Number 438 asked curiously, "Is that so? I heard you climb to rank 25 in a short time, right?" He said seriously, "I owe you one this time." That attitude surprised Leonard. "Thanks to you, I didn't get knocked out early." Leonard tried to explain, "That's not what I meant." But then they were drawn to something else. What's that? A wolf with sharp eyes bared its fangs and claws toward them. At that moment, it had a girl clenched in its jaws. Everyone gasped, "A wolf." Leonard stayed calm and shouted, "Sit." The terrifying giant wolf obediently sat down at everyone's astonishment. It released the girl. They recognized her instantly, number 3. Seeing her battered state, number 438 was stunned. No way, famed number 3 reduced to this. Leonard ignored the chatter and focused on number 3's condition. Her wounds are severe. A steel warrior like her beaten to this. What kind of monster did it? Or did number 1 or 2 do this? The wolf resumed, holding number 3 protectively in its mouth, while Leonard turned to question number 438. "You really don't want to be disqualified, right?" Number 438 answered plainly, "Yes, so what? You think that's cowardly?" Leonard pointed to the bear he'd just slain and offered, "Then I'll give you this instead of taking your badge. This place should have enough food for you." He brightened with joy. "Really? That's great." Leonard's final remark left them stunned for a moment. "All right, deal made. And don't be too obsessed with numbers." Number 438 watched his retreating back inside. Number 25. "Maybe he really is a good person. Perhaps I misunderstood something." After being treated, number 3 woke up looking puzzled at her surroundings. She asked, "Where am I?" She looked at her bandaged arm and wondered, "Am I being treated? By whom?" Nearby, Leonard's voice called out, "Awake." Number 3 reacted quickly, without hesitation. She lunged at Leonard swiftly to attack, but he easily caught her. Leonard only paid attention to the wound on her leg and said, "Your leg looks okay now. Don't waste yourself, rest instead. Number 3 snapped angrily, give me back my badge. Leonard glanced behind her. Number 3 followed his gaze and saw her badge still lying intact over there. The air between them suddenly turned awkward and hard to describe. Number 3 stammered a thanks. I'm grateful you saved my life, but I can't give you my badge. Leonard ignored her and walked to the fire, casually saying, I never intended to take it anyway. He held out a juicy skewer and invited, sit here and eat. Number 3 exclaimed in surprise, really, he said slowly. Don't be shy, there's plenty. Leonard thought to himself that he couldn't let a kid go hungry. By all means, he'd help her recover. Number 3 devoured the skewer, then listened up to his question. You're on Team C, right? What happened to those wounds? Did you run into a monster? She replied irritably, no. Right after we finished setting up our base, Team A ambushed us and wiped everyone out. She recalled it with self-blame. We couldn't even put up a fight, it was brutal. As captain, I'm ashamed I couldn't do anything. Leonard did not deny their defeat. You really didn't stand a chance. He pondered the battle quietly. Fighting with overwhelming numbers is a very different reality. You're inexperienced. Still, there are ways to win. With the insight of a sword emperor, he realized William had used a preemptive strike, an ambush tactic against youngsters unfamiliar with battlefield maneuver. Leonard asked about her injury. Was your right arm disabled by number 1? Number 3 explained, yes, compared to number 2, number 1 is on a completely different level. My team lacked the strength to avoid this. But she blurted out in frustration, I didn't even get to fight properly. I'm so resentful. Seeing her stubborn stance, Leonard smiled with amusement. Even knowing the gap in power, her fighting spirit hadn't died out. He silently judged she might become a true warrior. While eating, he offered his assessment. Anyway, the situation is bad. At this rate, Teams B and D collapsing is only a matter of time. Number 3 wondered if they'd formed an alliance. Leonard explained slowly, the morale boost from tasting victory is scarier than numerical advantage. And even if they form an alliance, small teams still can't surpass the combined wins of a large squad. In this case, ambush tactics are the optimal option. But in his mind, he was certain William had prepared for exactly that. Leonard sighed, honestly, do you have to go this far just to deal with kids? He gave direction. Aim for Team A's weak point. Number 3 asked what that weak point was. Leonard replied, concentrate all firepower on number 1. Team A operates entirely around him. Because he's the central pillar, their cohesion and decision-making are swift. But once that pillar breaks, they'll instantly become a chaotic mob. Leonard guessed she wanted revenge, and number 3, predictable as she was, didn't hesitate to reply. Of course I do. Leonard confidently demanded, then trust me. She paused to think for a moment, then asked seriously, should I start calling you captain from now on? Meanwhile, William's army was on the move. William led while number 5 beside him cautioned, don't be rash, time is on our side. Just maintain this position and victory will be ours. William replied slowly, it seems the result will be decided soon. Something caught his attention. William signaled and number 5 shouted, halt, prepare to fight. The whole group took up battle stances, ready to face them. William shouted, hiding because you know your limits is smart, but since you see there's no hope of victory, why not surrender? Stop hiding and show yourselves. Slowly another group stepped out, surprising William. So you found us already. Burita and Dylan stood above looking down at the crowd. This proud lion has a sniffer sharper than I thought. That remark put William on high alert. Burita and Dylan moved closer with a taunt. Or maybe it really has more of a dog's nose, huh? William, unafraid, shot back harshly. Those perched at the top can see right through lowly scum. Your petty tricks are not worth my attention. He sneered with confident contempt. I didn't expect filth like you to dare stand before me. You are a stain on House Cadena. Burita took an attack stance. Do you always have to act so high and mighty? You don't look like a dog, you look like a peacock fanning its tail. William retorted icily. This is what I call dignity, worthless woman. Burita and Dylan lunged forward at once, and William didn't hesitate to meet. Thus the duel erupted, a clash between commanders. Burita's troops surged forward, charging to wipe out Team A for us. William's group was no less ready to fight. Everyone tightened their defense, determined not to let them break through. Both sides plunged into fierce combat. William's powerful counterstrike left Burita stunned. More importantly, what on earth is he? She quickly composed herself to analyze the fight. Not only is he fast, but every blow lands with crushing weight. Even when I parry, my wrist goes numb and my eyes can't track the movement. Burrito exclaimed in frustration, what is that thing? She drew William's attention and successfully created an opening for Dylan to strike. This monster is terrifying. Dylan's sneak attack was easily countered by him. William was deeply annoyed by the duo's performance. He grabbed Dylan's sword and squeezed it, Did you two come here just to put on this little show? William's overwhelming strength surprised them. He lunged and drove a knee into Dylan's gut. Burita seized the moment quickly, an opening here. She judged and chose her move. The area behind him will be hard to defend. I can see every muscle twitch. A thought flashed through her mind. Wait, such a big opening is odd, don't tell me. That thought made her attack falter. Was he baiting me from the start? Burita halted abruptly. William calmly lowered his sword, which unnerved her defensive stance. He lounged and offered a compliment. At least you're better than number 4, but you realized that too late. Contrasting William's ease, Burita was still struggling to block his strikes. So even eyes that can read motion aren't perfect, huh? William glanced with contempt and taunted. In my eyes, your moves are sluggish, nothing like that number 25 fellow. He increased force and snapped her sword in two. Burita was utterly defeated by his overwhelming might. Taunt all you want, so that's all you've got. William bluntly declared, accept defeat, number 2. You have no chance of beating me. He was confident that he was the true victor in this drill. Leonard appeared, shocking the two. You're judging a bit early there, Burita exclaimed at the sight. Leonard strolled up to them casually. Number 25. William glared and demanded, you, what are you doing here? Leonard tossed aside the man he'd just beaten and replied nonchalantly, nothing special. He didn't hesitate to say, I just came to repay what you did to my team. William blurted out in surprise, number 5. He snapped irritably, team, don't make me laugh, you shouldn't have any teammates at all. Leonard explained slowly, at first that was true. The commotion around them caught William's attention, and Leonard's group surged out to attack. Now look closely. William's team was easily beaten. These are the weaklings you always despised. This is the uprising of the ones you called worthless. Number 438 held someone else's badge in hand, beaming with joy. Flashback to when number 438's group received the bear. With this much rations were safe. Everyone, thanks to this we can survive. They cheered happily. Wonderful. Long live number 25. Number 3 cut in. Sorry to interrupt your celebration. Number 438 exclaimed in surprise. Number 25 and number 3 too. What's with you two suddenly showing up? He grabbed the rations nervously and blurted, you're not here to take this back, are you? Leonard offered a suggestion. Why don't you ally with us? He reacted warily to Leonard's proposal. What do you mean? Our team is weak. Even if we join, you'll just hold us back. He reminded number 438, hey, you forgot what I said, didn't you? Leonard stood before them, asserting his point firmly. I said don't let those numbers bind you. You all are warriors who went through Kadina's formal training. So what does that matter? He tried to explain to boost their confidence. Train together and you'll grow at similar rates. Ranks are just labels. Number 438 listened but stayed extremely cautious. What the heck are you talking about? How could you and I be the same? Leonard emphasized, you also carry Kadina's blood. Your talent and potential are more than enough. He elaborated, those flashy prodigies are the minority. Apart from that, your actual strength is on par. Leonard pointed to himself and number 3 as evidence. Look at me and number 3. She came from a branch family, yet climbed up through her own effort. He tried to boost number 438's confidence. I did the same. I crawled from rank 381 up to rank 25. Haven't the numbers you value proven that? Leonard kept encouraging them. Only a few are ranked above you. You have the strength to surpass the rest. The number 438 group grew even more resentful. Don't joke, we wear these numbers because we can't win. Even among equals we're the worst. He shouted over them, what you need isn't just strength. Leonard tried to open their minds. What you're missing now is courage and self-belief. Have you ever pushed your limits? Leonard boomed, have you ever trusted yourself even once? If not, then I'll put my trust in you. His words seemed to touch them. You can win. Therefore, Class F officially offers this proposal to Class E. Leonard held out his hand and repeated the offer. Why don't we work together to take down that number 1? Number 3, commanding from above, shouted, charge together. We can win because number 25 believes in us. Let's seize victory. Reinvigorated, everyone surged forward. Forward. William stood below looking up with a sneer. Number 3, I can't believe you shook hands with those lowlifes. Aren't you ashamed? She shot back. What did you just say? Lowlifes. Number 3 proudly recounted. Listen carefully. I fought him once. He caught my kick with his bare hand like it was nothing. Leonard heard that and let her boast. His technique is far more refined than yours. William's temper flared at their confidence. I don't team up with weaklings. I simply follow someone stronger than me. Besides, you being strong doesn't mean your team is strong, right? Leonard pointed toward number 438 and said, look, my team is pulverizing your lackeys. Over there, number 438 and the others were celebrating. We won. Suddenly a laugh rang out, puzzling Leonard. Burita then offered to join. All right, I get it. I surrender. Let me join Team F with. Dylan nearby followed suit. Me too, he declared stubbornly. Better that than losing to someone I despise. William was annoyed by their actions. Dylan, you're defecting too. He shouted loudly to reprimand them. All of you bear Cadina's blood and have no pride at all. Leonard taunted him. What are you saying? Who here doesn't carry Cadina's blood? Stop being stubborn and admit defeat. William stood firm in his ideals. Don't toy with me. He pointed the tip of his sword at Leonard, number 25. He made a high-stakes offer, wagering the victory of all of Team A against Team F. Fight me right here. William, confident in himself, said, I'll personally show you the gap in skill, don't you run. He didn't hesitate to reply. That's been my plan from the start. He drew his weapon, though that line should have come from someone else to you. Leonard, confident in posture, took his stance. Come on then, I'll open your eyes. Bluno outside was watching the duel closely. The one-on-one between number 25 and William began. Colin thought this was the real final. Bluno eagerly awaited the outcome. Can't wait to see if number 1 wins as everyone expects, or if this rookie flips the script. Maybe we'll witness the birth of a genius fit to be captain. The two plunged into hand-to-hand combat, trading attacks and defenses as the tempo of the match grew faster and tenser. While defending, Leonard assessed William's skill. His swordwork is solid and his striking power is terrifying. Burita's impressive to have withstood those blows. Just blocking them would shred someone's arm. He could clearly see every move of his. Even so, Leonard easily predicted his attack patterns. He's still just a trainee, strong strikes, but his lines are too predictable. In a flash, one of William's techniques surprised him. He realized this was how Burita was taken down. A strike from a blind angle no one expected. Bluno exclaimed, that was unexpected. He wondered if number 25 had seen through number 1's moves already. To recognize it that fast is impressive. He pondered Leonard's talent. Unbelievable that someone without raw genius could do what Burita almost died taking. Leonard analyzed each of his strikes. When we clashed earlier, I noticed it already. But he wasn't swinging his sword, using just brute strength. He guessed William's special ability was a kind of formless, invisible power. The two of them wrapped their swords in that power and attacked relentlessly. Leonard watched every tiny detail. A blade cutting from an angle no one normally could generate force. He judged it by that muscular frame. Even a normal trainee, not to mention an experienced fighter, would let their guard down thinking an attack couldn't come from that angle. Leonard realized that at that moment, William used telekinesis to channel power into his hand and sword, producing a devastating strike. William swung with tremendous force, emitting a blue light, but Leonard's blade stopped it. It truly was a power that defied ordinary rules. Leonard inwardly praised, this kid's something. William noticed too, you bastard, you've seen through my power. The two swords clashed again. Facing Leonard, William asserted confidently, and that's not all. You've been holding back, haven't you? William shouted, demanding, why hide it until now? Leonard replied calmly, let my sword answer. He admired that. Knotting it had the bearing of nobility. William smiled and said, very well. William's next strike left him stunned. Leonard saw through the move, yet acknowledged his skill. He uses telekinesis not just to boost damage, but to launch long-range sword energy too. His number 1 rank isn't empty praise. William dragged his sword along the ground arrogantly and shared, you get what this attack means. Don't blame me, number 25. Leonard shot back at the arrogance, you're overconfident. He remained utterly calm to take the fierce assault, to see what he could actually do. A pale blue aura spread over him, boiling fiercely. All right, I'll give you what you want. Leonard calmly formulated a counter-strategy. With his body weak now, he couldn't unleash his old power, but he also couldn't draw attention by using that force. Leonard gripped his sword ready to strike, so the only thing he could do now was focus and prepare to cut him down. Leonard was pushed back by William's power. He easily dodged William's attacks. Each of William's swings was powerful, but he dodged them all effortlessly, prompting William to exclaim, your feet are fast. William unleashed a surprise move. Then try this one. That strike snapped the tree behind them. The blow was mighty, but Leonard's agility let him escape. Burita watched closely and realized, I get it. Dylan, who couldn't see clearly, asked what she meant. She explained as she watched. William used an ability to blind others to his moves. Dylan spat annoyed. What? That's dirty play. Burita noticed that number 25 still dodged everything. I think number 25 is the sly one, hiding his true strength. Number 3 defended him, saying he couldn't even get close. How is that sly? Dylan replied, is that so? He thought seriously. No, the truth was the opposite. An underling beside Bluno noticed number 25 was actually getting closer. It looked like he was running madly to escape number 1, but it was all part of the plan. Bluno also grasped his intent. He was acting to drive number 1 into a blind spot he didn't realize. He likened the image to a predator calmly encircling its prey. William was losing ground, his initial might fading, and Leonard was steadily closing the distance. He wondered as Leonard got uncomfortably close, "When did you get this near?" Leonard answered casually, "You're defeated, number 1. He launched a powerful strike that sent everything flying, William included. He was utterly shocked, unable to accept the reality of defeat. Impossible. Is it really me? He felt deeply humiliated. I lost to a lowly runt like you. Leonard's strike made a huge commotion, shaking the whole forest. William asked himself, did I really lose? He sat on the ground facing Leonard's sword aimed at him. No, this isn't simply a loss. The tip of Leonard's sword hovered before him. It's death. Leonard remained calm, showing no further malice. William sat on the ground, breathing heavily, then laughed. Everyone around was stunned when he surrendered. I yield, number 25. The crowd rejoiced at Leonard's success. You won. Bluno, too, exclaimed in surprise. What an unexpected spectacle. William's words puzzled him. Thanks, number 25, no, new number 1. You really put my mind at ease. Leonard looked at his melancholy face and asked, what do you mean? William recalled the hardships he'd endured, the pressures from his father, and the obsessive thought that he had to be the strongest. Leonard was still bewildered by the remark, while William seemed to have let something go. It's all been blown away. He held out a hand and clarified, it's nothing. William conceded the match was well fought. Good match, new number 1. Leonard sighed with relief at that. Leonard took his hand and helped him up. Well done, congratulations. Bluno's subordinates were wailing. This has to be a joke. Number 1 lost. I can't believe my eyes. They apparently had bets. We're doomed, I'm broke. I trusted number 1 so much. Bluno was extremely pleased with the outcome. Though surprising, it was a big haul. He declared the field training officially over. Burrito and Dylan didn't join the celebration. They stood aside in admiration. Putting number 25 aside, I'm really impressed with Squad E. Yes, I have to admit that. I didn't expect him to team up with the underdogs to take down Squad A. Everyone was now praising Leonard. Bluno kept watching him. Number 25 had seen through the real purpose of the drill. An unexpected but very satisfying result. He ordered Colin, wait for everyone to calm down, then pack up to head back. She obeyed, understood. He gave her detailed instructions and asked her to contact the main family branch to tell them it's time to hold the coming-of-age ceremony. Leonard gently stroked Diaghilev and said, I have to leave tomorrow, but I can't take you with me. Hearing he'd leave, it made the creature put on a sorrowful face, as if it didn't want to part. Seeing that forlorn look, Leonard glanced at it affectionately. I'm leaving, are you that sad? Seeing Diaghilev so sad, he patted and comforted it. Me too. Leonard lightly stroked its nose and whispered, sorry I have to leave you here. But I promise. He looked at it and firmly declared that he would grow stronger and definitely come back for it. Seeing Diaghilev beam, he gently added, by then we'll play together again. Leonard turned to leave but glanced back longingly. Train so you can keep up with my travels. Looking at Diaghilev's majestic form, a thought bubbled up. Next time we meet, I'll give you a name. Before long, Leonard was on the carriage with William and a few others. He froze in shock as everyone on the carriage stared at him. What are you doing on my carriage? Since when is there a rule about boarding by rank? Number 3 replied casually, I'm just following the boss. Burrito chuckled and revealed, I'm here because today's main character is on your team. Dylan forced a smile and said, I wanted to talk to the one who climbed from the bottom to the top. William folded his arms and said in a cold, deep voice, I want to see the face of the one who jumped from rank 381 to rank 1 in a month. Hearing that, number 3 gaped in surprise. You want to talk to the top rank? Burrito paused and probed. You're surprisingly eager to learn, huh? Leonard stood there bewildered. What do you take me? William suddenly turned serious and told him, also, I have something to tell you. On hearing this, number 3 remarked, you've changed a lot. Did the captain hit your head too hard? He shouted angrily, shut up. After that, he leaned in and whispered to Leonard, listen carefully. From tomorrow, supplies will be allocated based on your performance as true descendants of the Cadenas. We're returning to training. But before that, the Bloodline Awakening Ceremony will take place. A Bloodline Awakening Ceremony. The Cadenas' blood carries organs ordinary people lack. The ceremony is a special ritual to awaken them. From now on, training will focus entirely on that. Dylan yawned and guessed that's why the Cadenas' training ground had only taught basics until now. Hearing this, William bluntly asked, so what happens after those organs awake? He hesitated, then explained, they say you'll be able to control mana much more freely. Like number 4 said, That's why spirits and mana stones are banned at the training ground. Spirits and mana stones. Once the awakening ends, the students finish preparation and will join the Azure Dragon Knights order. Everyone reacted in stunned admiration. The Azure Dragon Knights, I've never heard of them. He smiled and added quietly, this hasn't been widely announced. On paper, there are only 7 Knight orders. Burita cut in, the Azure Dragon trains through real combat. They gather elites to nurture the next generation. They design tailored paths for each student, basically letting you taste the real world early. As she finished, William turned to Leonard. That's why new students are classified by rank and special ability. Each person awakens different organs. Ah, right. He then seriously clarified in detail. To be precise, their attribute manas and the number of cores each person has different. Number 3 suddenly recalled something. Seems like dragon blood runs in the Cadina's family. Whether it's true or not, we don't really know. William continued solemnly. Hey, the fewer cores the better, right? Single core is considered peak. The fewer cores, the more efficient the cultivation. He frowned, eyes full of resolve, and I'm definitely a single core holder. Seeing this, everyone chimed in at once, toned down that smug look. Burita forced a smile at him. Don't mind him, a single core shows up once every 10 years. Leonard fell silent, thinking to himself that in his past life he'd trained similarly. The 5 spirit sources correspond to the 5 elements. Leonard blinked at her. Don't tell me there are 5 cores in total. Burita paused, then explained, that's called 5 core. Its training efficiency is unimaginably bad. Each additional core doubles the resources you need. Not to mention, you must balance all cores during training. He nodded, agreeing that this explained the drastic drop in efficiency. If single core is 1, double core is 4, triple core is 8, quad core is 16, and 5 core is a monstrous 32 times. Those numbers are terrifying. Her tone grew grave. You should have learned this in theory class. Are you, the top rank, really that clueless about theory? Leonard frowned and replied nonchalantly, well. Burita burst into a silly laugh. Hey, if you're that good in real combat, who needs dry theory? Leonard sighed helplessly. The concept was similar to his previous life, so he could manage, and if old methods still worked here, it was a great opportunity. After a moment he asked, if someone truly trains all cores, wouldn't 5 core be the strongest? Dylan chuckled naively. In theory, yes, but where do you get enough resources to train them? Without resources, there's a limit no matter how much you train. Leonard and Burita shot him a look of displeasure. Multiple cores mostly bring disadvantages, so single or triple core is safest. Can someone please tell him to shut up? Later, Burita bluntly declared, I'm satisfied with triple core. Single core is too flashy and a hassle. Then someone piped up, Leonard is 5 core. He walked away slowly, the comment still ringing in his ears. Think about it, he's talented with the sword but has no affinity for the bloodline. Why treat him that way? Leonard sighed inwardly. He had stood out, but in a way no one wanted. He then stood alone before a room, head bowed in thought. After a while, Leonard brushed the corner of his mouth and gave a faint half-smile. I didn't want things to turn out like this either. Suddenly, he sensed something strange coming from behind him, and with quick reflexes, Leonard luckily dodged the sudden attack hurtling toward him. He turned and heard the attacker murmur, impressive. The opponent summoned power and kept marveling. So young and already understands the sword. The man before him was Fabian, walking forward slowly, just as the rumors said about you. Leonard, formerly number 381. Hearing his record, he couldn't help but exclaim, reaching this realm at your age is rare. A respectable mastery, even without using aura. Leonard frowned and dropped a line. Isn't martial art built from the heart and honed by the body? Fabian went momentarily blank. Leonard continued boldly. I thought aura's presence had nothing to do with how refined a martial art is. The moment he finished, the man unconsciously laughed with delight. After a moment, Fabian looked at him and said seriously, looks like the rumors still don't capture your full strength. Good attitude, I like you. Saying that, he clasped his hands politely and introduced, my name is Fabian, swordsman and captain of the Azure Dragon Knights. I stake my honor and position to promise that you deserve a special rank. I guarantee you'll receive the best treatment. Hearing this, a subordinate behind him spoke up to remind him, Captain, are you serious? But Leonard was just confirmed as 5 core at the ceremony. Fabian suddenly declared loudly, the number of cores doesn't matter. Don't let those little trinkets stand in the way of great ambitions. If someone has talent, we must invest fully, so don't worry about what others say. With no other choice, that subordinate reluctantly stepped forward. You deserve the special package, take this. It's stocked with everything, use whatever you need. Leonard looked and said with amusement, is that a space power? Fabian exclaimed, as a special class trainee, I give you the right to choose. Feel free to pick. Beyond those doors are different training zones. Normally we'd assign based on your level, but this time you decide. Leonard suddenly fixed his gaze forward. Which place supplies resources best suited to my current level? Fabian laughed and nudged him. Good question. Anyone who dodges the hard path isn't a true martial artist. He looked and explained slowly, then go to Kalabog. It's the Empire's most remote island. Even veteran knights give up because the environment is too hard. Only the phrase untamed wilderness can describe it. Moreover, some areas are as dangerous as demon lairs. Excited yet. Leonard touched it lightly and replied politely, "Yes, thank you for your concern, Captain Fabian." Looking at the mysterious power within, he thought, the reason training 5 cores is considered hard is simply because people don't know how to train properly. The 5 elements are both a flow and a unified whole. If I can raise them all at once, then this is a golden chance to surpass even my past life's achievement. Leonard decided to take his luggage inside. Fabian watched and softly said, "Then good luck to you." As Leonard stepped in, he hurriedly raised a hand to shield his face. He looked around and confirmed, "Calabogos." Suddenly a voice echoed from behind him, "Welcome." When he turned, he saw Bradley approaching. Leonard thought to himself, "I didn't hear a sound, this guy's powerful." He sized Leonard up and asked, "Are you the trainee everyone's been talking about?" Leonard stepped back and bowed politely. "Pleasure to meet you. My name is Leonard." He returned the courtesy with a brief introduction. "I'm Bradley. I oversee this Calabagos region, and I'm a senior knight of Basile's unit, one of the Azure Dragon." As he spoke, Bradley beckoned with a finger. "Now go say hello to the others elsewhere. You haven't greeted everyone yet, have you?" Leonard nodded in acknowledgement. "Yes, that's right." He walked on and gave a quick explanation. "Everyone here is a trainee knight. Even if you're the same rank, you should still show respect to the seniors." Leonard trailed silently behind, thinking as he walked, "Judging by his tone, I probably don't need to be overly formal." While walking, Bradley suddenly stopped. "Even if you accidentally bump into someone, you don't need to be afraid. There's a rule against picking on first-year recruits like you." Leonard nodded firmly. "I'll remember that." Seeing his decisive attitude, Bradley nodded with slight satisfaction. "Good. From today you'll have my protection for 6 months, then 6 months of self-training. After that you'll be on your own." "Clear?" Leonard nodded resolutely. "Yes, I understand." Bradley went on to outline some basics. "Normally your food and clothing aren't my concern, but since you're specially favored, I'll at least arrange a place for you to sleep." He then led him to a simple wooden room. "Here, use this room. It's got the essentials inside." Leonard looked around and bowed politely. "Thank." Bradley emphasized that apart from that, everything else was his own responsibility. "In theory, as long as you have spirit stones, you can buy anything, so act accordingly." Leonard nodded seriously, now very cautious. "Understood, Sir Bradley." He nodded in satisfaction and kindly asked, "Basic orientation done, any questions?" Leonard thought for a moment, then hesitantly asked, "What's the difference between the protection period and the training period?" Bradley answered kindly, "There's a bit of difference, but it's simple. During protection, I'll assist you with everything, whereas in the training phase, I'll only ensure no one messes with you." He glanced around the lodging cautiously. "Are there laws here against injuring or killing people?" Bradley stressed clearly, "Murder is absolutely forbidden." Leonard nodded and stepped inside. "I understand. One last thing, could you tell me the value of the resources I was given?" "All right, let me check." Bradley led him in and briefed him. "You have 3,000 low-grade spirit stones and 100 vials of elixir for each attribute." Seeing the piles of spirit stones, Leonard couldn't help thinking, even for a course leader, this amount is excessive. Seeing him silent, Bradley glanced and mused inwardly. That kid Leonard is supposedly from a branch family. Members of the main house might not get this much. Seems the captain really favors. Leonard observed and asked, "Exactly what are spirit stones?" He kindly clarified, "They're ore filled with mana. You just absorb the energy to gradually expand your mana cavity." As he spoke, he looked at Leonard's heavy luggage. "With this amount, single core can reach up to level 10, and 5 core could probably stagger to level 5. Leonard's eyes widened in shock. "Levels, is that a rank system?" Seeing his alarmed face, Bradley only smiled. "Now I'll explain. First, I'll teach you how to recognize the cultivation tiers of a practitioner. Martial practitioners in this world are divided into 5 major realms and 10 minor realms. Each major realm contains 10 small tiers, and as you surpass each rank, you gradually become a true martial artist. First realm, body refinement. This realm trains the physical body. You use the mana within to expand your mana cavity. Second realm, external force. This stage trains how to refine mana into aura to project force outside the body. Third realm, transcendence. This stage polishes one's distinct self. It's hard to define because it varies from person to person. Fourth realm, demigod. It's a state beyond the mind, allowing the will to intervene directly in reality. After a brief explanation, Bradley began to emphasize, "And at the 5th level, you'll be reborn entirely to touch the divine." The next stage he mentioned is called the God Realm. At this point, Bradley's expression darkened. However, aside from the progenitor Kadinas, no one has reached that level. He turned his back and said through gritted teeth in anger, "There are arrogant fools causing trouble, claiming it's just a Kadina's family myth. Those piles of trash must have forgotten they'd be enslaved for life if our ancestor hadn't dealt with that evil dragon." After a moment, Bradley stood up, coughed softly, and explained, "That's enough. Now let's start the real training." He lightly pointed at Leonard. "The first task is to train mana. Use the resources to strengthen your body and expand your mana cavity. This exercise is simple. Just absorb energy from the spirit stone." After explaining for a while, Bradley immediately opened the door and left. "I'll let you handle it. Good luck." Leonard was taken aback. "What?" Before he could protest, Bradley hurried off, wishing you success. Alone in the room, Leonard eyed the spirit stones and pondered. Just absorb them. He picked up a stone and observed. "The mana here is abundant. I could stroll and absorb, and that would be enough to train. Could absorption really be a tough challenge for others?" Thinking that, he didn't hesitate to squeeze the spirit stone in his hand. "If so, I'm damn lucky." A smug smile tugged at Leonard's lips. After all, he'd done this in a previous life. That night, with the moon high, Leonard sat alone in the wooden room, deliberating and studying. Strange, indeed. He looked at the veins bulging on his arm with some wonder. Even with prior experience, isn't this progress a bit too fast? Seeing results beyond expectation, Leonard sighed in frustration. He'd reached Tier 3 in just a few short hours. At this rate, he'd hit Tier 5 in a day. After a while, he lay down on the floor in helpless thought. Thanks to retaining memories from his past life, this training was absurdly easy. The 5-core mechanism is identical to the 5 elements from before, and this absorption method is merely basic practice. But if I finish in one day, I'll definitely be suspected. Maybe I should hide in the mountains and train for a few days to be discreet. Lost in confusion, he suddenly thought of Fabian. Wait, the captain already believes I'm an unmatched genius. Ideas began to form in his head. If I show the techniques from my past life now, I might convincingly play that genius role. Otherwise, all this potential will be wasted. At the same time outside, Yan was patrolling the forest with his companion. Seeing the wooden shelter, they couldn't help but exclaim, "Impressive, hasn't that kid been shut in his room for over a month? Exactly a month and a half." Hayden frowned and sneered. "Maybe he's going into seclusion until he reaches at least Tier 5 before coming out. That's the minimum to survive in this hellhole." Yan shook his head and sighed. It hurt to hear. Finding nothing interesting, the other guy suggested, "Come on, let's go fishing, Chief. We don't have time to fuss over the new recruit." They trudged on grumbling. "If we don't catch anything today or tomorrow, we'll have to trade spirit stones for food. Terrible. After all, our level is only goblin tier. That's harsh, at least beat an orc level. Both types are the weakest here anyway." Just as the voices faded, the wooden door creaked and slowly cracked open. Leonard stepped out, looked around, and breathed a sigh of relief. He brushed dust from his face and wondered whether he should ask Bradley for a real sword. The next day, Bradley paused at that request. "You want a real sword?" He drew a blade and asked Leonard bluntly, "What's your reason?" Leonard answered honestly, "I think I should get used to a real sword instead of always using a wooden one." Bradley looked him up and down and mocked, "Getting a bit cocky just because you got a little stronger." No sooner had he finished than Leonard, empty-handed, smashed a nearby boulder. The punch was flawless enough to make Bradley's eyes widen in astonishment. He was briefly surprised, then blurted out praise. "Didn't expect your 5-core to reach Tier 3 in just a month and a half." Bradley hesitated, then emphasized through gritted teeth, "That rate of advancement is impressive, but..." He glared and barked, "Don't get too big-headed, training." Faced with that, Leonard stared wide-eyed, feeling cornered. "What, with my current strength?" Bradley tapped the hilt against his head. "Don't be so afraid." He softened his angry look into a concerned expression and advised, "Just don't do anything stupid." Leonard rubbed his head and took the sword. "Thank you." Bradley suddenly remembered something. "If you lose the sword, you'll have to compensate with spirit stones." Leonard asked honestly, "And what if it breaks?" He pulled out a spirit stone and grinned. "Then you pay with spirit stones as well." Leonard couldn't help but smile faintly. "Fair enough." Bradley turned and left, not forgetting to encourage him. "Do your best." Leonard carefully unfolded the map to study it. "So I have a sword now." Looking at the map, he began to plan. "I should go scout around a bit." That very night, Leonard decided to head toward the ruined forest. Only green feet could be seen stepping across the ground. A pack of hobgoblins appeared, looking absolutely hideous. Suddenly, a metallic scent of fresh blood wafted through, catching their attention. At the same time, Leonard stepped forward with the keen sword and muttered, "Even if I cut them all down, the blood smell won't be hidden. He then took a run and launched himself forward with a powerful spring. After that, Leonard coldly delivered slashes to the hobgoblins. I'll make your death a nice, quick delivery. One who took the full blow split in two instantly. Leonard touched a glowing stone and thought to himself, monsters release mana as spirit shards when they die. After clearing the hobgoblins, he squinted. Gathering about 100 low-grade spirit shards in one day isn't bad. Then he thought further. You probably can't advance much more in this ruined forest. The ruined forest, as the name implies, is home to those cast off from the food chain. Leonard felt a bit fed up. Only weak E-rank creatures live here. He turned his head slightly, pupils flicking to the rear. Sensing something moving, Leonard thought, this scent is different from before. An ogre. Only then did his sword-bearing hand begin to tremble involuntarily. A thought popped into his head at the same time. It didn't even bother hiding its presence, which means it sees me as prey. Leonard frowned, took a ready stance to meet the fight. Apparently some beast looked down on him. Then he knitted his brows challengingly. Come here, you mangy mutt. No sooner had the words left his mouth than a loud crash sounded, like something smashing together. Right before Leonard was the image of a ferocious wolf baring sharp teeth and lunging. But before it could do anything substantial, Leonard gave it a sharp warning blow. The swirling smoke cleared, revealing Leonard standing with both hands raised in front of him. Then he frowned and looked at the ogre with contempt. Shut your yap, you filthy dog. It rolled its eyes white, opened its mouth dribbling saliva, and let out a loud roar. Leonard clenched his wrist and thought to himself, just changing attack direction and it's this strong already. He then gathered momentum and leapt up to dodge the ogre's attack. Then I'll dodge every one of them. Suddenly grotesque veins bulged along the ogre's bicep. Seeing that, Leonard glanced and mused that something was off. This ogre was not normal at all. Typical goblins are rank E1. When they evolve into hobgoblins, they reach E2. A normal ogre would be rank D1. He was still lost in thought. Usually monsters evolve only once, but this one's strength didn't fit D2 at all. If so, at the same time Leonard bent to avoid the ogre's strike. What he faced was an ogre rank D3. He merely curled a contemptuous smile. Well then, I have no choice. Leonard's pupils flared red as he glared at it. Looks like it's been ages since he had a proper training session. The ogre, a bit panicked, swung the weapon in its hands toward its opponent, sending earth and stone flying. At the same time, Leonard lightly tapped the tip of his toe on its axe blade. Wild swings like that will never touch me. With that, he drove a sword into the ogre's head. Then Leonard forcefully swung a sword straight at the monster's neck. But the ogre was unfazed. Seeing that, he frowned and thought, hard enough to spark on impact, really. At the same time, the creature slammed its axe down hard at his position. But when it saw the spot it struck was just empty ground, it flinched. Leonard glanced up full of scorn. Just as I thought, it's just a brute with muscles. His thought followed. Here's the chance. While its axe is stuck, if slicing with the sword won't work then. Suddenly he spun around and let out a loud shout that left the ogre momentarily stunned. Then he frowned and thought to himself, though its muscles and bones are very tough, this weakness cannot protect it. Leonard drove the sharp weapon up in a piercing stroke from its chin to the top of its head. At the same time, something glittering silver-white flashed in the sky. Leonard saw this and raised an impressed eyebrow. What a surprise. Found a mid-grade spirit shard in this ruined forest. This one is worth as much as 100 low-grade ones combined. If there are more like this, my internal cultivation will skyrocket in no time. He then muttered under his breath, no wonder the trainee knights never bother with this place. At the same time, he told himself, still, I have no reason to stay here any longer. Scene shift, a wooden door appears, and a pale blue light spills out from the room inside, revealing Leonard sitting and training intently. Powerful energy radiating around. He glanced at the thing in his palm and broke into a sweat. Things are progressing well, but has he really reached the 10th tier of body training? Then a question popped into Leonard's head. A 5-core guy breaking through to tier 10 in just a few months. This will obviously stir up trouble. Is there a way to get more resources without drawing too much attention? Suddenly a voice sounded and he flinched. Hey, do you think something happened to him? The person beside him replied, it's been 3 months, hasn't it? He doesn't seem to have stepped outside at all. Haydn wiped sweat from his brow and complained, do we really have to check on him every day like this? Yan frowned and said in a low voice, we must be his benevolent seniors first. In a famed sword clan like Cadina's, connections are the strongest weapon. A bond formed here is worth far more than flimsy ties with small families. Besides, he's a leader. I heard even the commander has been keeping an eye on him. Then he reminded them we should at least go and greet him. Haydn, holding a bucket, grumbled, all right, stop nagging. Haydn then shouted, "Hey recruit, you still alive? You can't train properly if you don't eat well." He heard no movement inside and wondered suspiciously. Could he be dead? One of the two sighed. "Let's go home, there's no sound coming from inside." Leonard narrowed his eyes at those words, thinking, those benevolent seniors are more considerate than I thought, so that's why they linger and observe the situation. Through the gap I can clearly see his faith. If it were Leonard, the training results would be obvious. But if it's a senior who's been on this island for 10 years, no one would suspect. He then whispered to himself, "It's been a long time, I don't know if I can still do it. Well, let's give it a try." Leonard closed his eyes and waved his hands, using a cosmetic change technique by manipulating the muscles and blood vessels in his face. A man with long white hair appeared, and a thought surfaced. Since becoming the Sword Emperor, I have no reason to hide my identity. Leonard's face gradually began to change. Then he thought to himself that he never expected he'd have to use it to conceal his power one day. Leonard looked at his hands and spoke. "Okay, this should keep them from recognizing me." With Haydn's face, he gently said, "You're Haydn, right? Please help me out for a while." 3 months later, at the Bone Mountain Swamp, a desolate scene spread before him. At that moment, a thought flashed through Leonard's mind. The immutable survival rule I've distilled for myself. The bloody survival lessons learned so far, every creature in this demon-haunted place. He reminded himself solemnly, all possess venom and are masters of stealth, so I must never be complacent. Just one moment of carelessness, and I'll become prey for the lamia lurking beneath the swamp. Then Leonard, still wearing Haydn's face, squinted and thought wryly that even an ordinary lizard ranked C, far bolder than that mutated ogre. They're too many. I'll finish them all in one move. He slammed his foot hard into the ground. Next, Leonard sprang forward with his weapon aimed at a lamia. With a single strike, he successfully felled the monster. Then Leonard coldly sliced the lamia's crown. Noticing something, he muttered to himself, "I think I made a bit too much noise. Looks like the boss here has woken up." Leonard immediately turned his head to watch a lamia charging with a sharp spear. Suddenly it flinched and let out a loud cry. At the same time, Leonard remarked coolly, "You're quick, but your moves are way too basic." Then, showing no mercy, he drove his boot into the lamia's spine. "I don't have time to dally with someone who knows nothing about proper swordsmanship." As soon as Leonard finished it off, a glittering diamond-like shard appeared. He looked back at the shiny things in his pouch and raised an eyebrow. "I've collected 1,500 mid-grade spirit shards. Time to move to the next stage." A thought popped up. It's time to change the real combat location. He pondered silently. I'm currently at the 10th tier of body training. Even borrowing Haydn's face to avoid attention, if I break through here on Calabagos, keeping it secret will be extremely difficult. Leonard then took a few light steps forward. He lightly swung his sword and said he needs a place to contain mana eruptions and hide, at least a shelter from wind and rain. Suddenly Leonard jolted and glanced over, as if he'd noticed something. Then he wondered aloud, "Is that a field over there?" Leonard scanned it and thought in surprise that there were herbs with mana absorption rates even higher than spirit shard. At the same time, a question formed in his mind. Could the troll guarding the cave be tending them? The troll, standing still, suddenly startled and let out a cry. Seeing that, Leonard quickly sat down. Something was hurtling this way. Right where the troll stood, a strong gust of wind appeared. Before it stood a ferocious wolf baring its jaws. He was a bit surprised, realizing it was a lycanthrope. The ground beneath the troll cracked, as if under tremendous pressure. A shield formed before it, preventing the lycanthrope from striking its target. The creature seemed to realize something and retreated. Leonard wondered curiously, are they fighting over territory? It attacked and shook the earth. Have monsters that size learned to command nature's power? He watched the troll's actions and thought, manipulating tens of tons of earth and stone at will, even for me, that's no easy feat. But the other was dodging with lightning speed. Before Leonard was a fiercely even match between the troll and the lycanthrope. Neither side yielding, both beasts held together as if to show off their strength. He remained quietly observant, predicting this battle wouldn't end anytime soon. Taking advantage of the moment, Leonard immediately jumped down in front of the cave entrance. He cast a quick glance over. While they're busy, I'll sneak in and check out the cave. Leonard didn't hesitate and stepped into the cavern. If a troll of that caliber was on guard, there must be some seriously valuable treasure inside. Inside the cave, only the sound of his own footsteps could be heard. Leonard frowned and thought, I just walked in and already can't hear the outside noise. This is the perfect spot to break through. A pale golden light appeared before him. He was curious, what on earth is this place? There stood a tree with golden leaves, radiating a brilliant glow. Leonard broke into a sweat at the sight. All mid-grade herbs. Could that troll really have been cultivating this heat? He then looked at the jade-green branches nearby and felt something off. Despite the huge number of herbs, from outside you couldn't sense a thing. Leonard reached out and unleashed a burst of blue power. The attack was immediately blocked by a thick shield. The clash echoed through the silent space. He wiped sweat from his brow and grinned. Got it. These things are protecting and concealing the place. Leonard looked up at the golden tree and asked, puzzled, everything in this cave is so bizarre. What kind of species is that blazing golden tree? He reached out and gently touched the golden leaves, feigning curiosity. I've heard of mid-grade herbs, but does a tree like this really exist? It must be top tier, maybe even beyond that. I bet that troll doesn't even know the true value of this tree. I plan to break through my major realm right here. But suddenly Leonard opened his eyes and glanced behind. When he saw the battered form of the troll, he murmured, "Looks like I've got company." A streak of light flashed, as if something was moving at high speed. Leonard dashed like an arrow, frowning. Because this place blocks mana and sound, I didn't notice him approaching at all. The troll behind looked like it had been through a brutal fight. Seeing its body, he thought, fortunately, its wounds from that battle haven't healed yet. At that moment, a tremendous power radiated from its body, lifting earth and stone. The sound of cracking rocks reverberated everywhere. Leonard reacted quickly and leaped up to avoid the blow. Seeing the cave entrance sealed, he thought, instead of attacking me directly, he's targeting the entrance to trap me inside. A thrill of excitement crossed Leonard's lips. He frowned and shouted, "Fine, suit yourself, I'll take your best shot." The sounds of falling earth and stone rang through the silent night. Huge boulders had sealed the cave entrance. The only way out was gone. Inside, the troll, covered in wounds, threw itself forward with an attack. Leonard dodged while glancing at it, wondering, did he realize he can't beat me on speed after just a few moves? Watching its actions, he mused that he didn't expect it to hurl rocks recklessly like that. Then Leonard used a flying stone as a springboard, reminding himself that taking a single hit could be fatal. He glanced ahead and thought the guys pretty sharp. With that decided, Leonard darted straight toward the troll's position. Energy surging out of him, he frowned and charged. Leonard looked at the monster and confidently vowed he'll finish it in a single move. Next, he forcefully slashed his sword across its mouth, making the troll cry out in pain. Leonard didn't stop and continued his sword frame through. But seeing it unaffected, he ground his teeth and thought, it's protected by earth and stone. Without that pile then. Leonard watched the troll winding up and mused inwardly. Of course. It slammed down an attack, carrying massive force, cracking the ground. Then the troll slowly raised its clenched fist. Leonard taunted at the sight. I see now, no wonder the wolf people were rooted like that. Then he bluntly exposed. From the start, you were someone who could wield dual-element magic. Hearing that, the troll grit its teeth and let out a snarl. It stamped its foot angrily, making the surrounding space tremble. He stared at the giant and thought soberly, this isn't a problem you solve by getting up close anymore. Touch that heat and I'll melt in an instant. I must find a gap and finish it with one decisive strike. With that, he immediately dashed off. He looked at the troll's legs and silently confirmed, the time has come. Leonard's eyes filled with killing intent as he lunged toward the beast. Without mercy, he stomped hard on the troll's knee. Leonard glanced up and mused aloud. What a nostalgic feeling, huh? Then still looking, he struck at its jaw. It's over. A loud crash rang out. The troll's whole body looked like it was about to topple backward. Leonard quickly moved back and pressed against the cave wall. Then he gathered all his strength to spring toward the creature. Pointing his blade at the troll, Leonard roared, too late now. The sharp sword, brimming with massive energy, he drove straight into its body. He raised an eyebrow and said, I pierced its chest. This should definitely be the end. Suddenly he jolted and glanced as if sensing something. A brilliant reddish-pink light emanated from inside the troll. It was a stone with a black rim and pink center, looking like it was about to burst. Then a huge explosion went off right there. Flames flared fiercely and swept across the grass below. Though the ground was engulfed in fire, the grass itself seemed unharmed. At the same time, Leonard put up his hand to shield himself, gritting his teeth. Oh no, if that thing detonates this close, it's too dangerous. Immediately another blast erupted, and the pressure sent him flying backward. His back slammed hard into a tree, making Leonard scream in pain. Blood spurted from his mouth as he thought, that impact against the tree must have shredded my bone. Leonard, battered and wounded, leaned against the trunk worrying that in less than 5 minutes, this cave will be burned to ash. In a dead-end cave like this, don't expect anyone to come to help, which means whatever happens here, no one will know. They say when you reach a higher realm, the body auto-recovers. No time to dawdle. He then reached down and picked up a scattered spirit shard from the ground. Leonard clenched it and yelled through gritted teeth, I'm seeing this through to the end. He shut his eyes, a thought surfaced. he could feel mana from the shard seeping into his injured channel. My body is being miraculously healed by the spirit shard. Next, Leonard stepped toward the patch of grass growing on the soil, but that alone wasn't enough. He bent down and told himself he had to absorb all the herbs here. Leonard ripped up several herb plants and shoved them straight into his mouth. Then he sat on the ground to recuperate, silently thinking, all preparations are complete. The mana beyond my limits is surging. The 5 cores have begun to rotate in unison. I feel all the energy merging into one, like I've just grown a new heart. A pale blue energy now enveloped Leonard. Both his body and mana were restored, and he'd just broken through into a completely new realm. But why won't that power stop? He'd already far surpassed the strength a human should bear. This really is like the heart of a dragon. Before him was the scene of Leonard sitting beneath the tree, concentrating all his essence to recover. With a stunned, wide-eyed look he thought, not only have the 5-core mana fused completely, my realm just leapt to 3rd-tier external force as well. Leonard recalled the faces of the 3 elders and thought, those stuck at tier 2 for years are going to be shocked in Cadenas. He looked at the powerful energy surging through his body. His wounds were fully healed, and his mana circulation was far faster and stronger than before. Leonard clenched his fist, surprised, who knew a single major breakthrough would bring such drastic improvement. He then looked up at the giant tree, puzzled. How did I survive that terrible explosion in a closed space? I should have been incinerated by that unbearable heat. Suddenly Leonard narrowed his eyes. So that's it. Hanging on the tree before him was something emitting a glow. Without hesitation, he touched it. The brilliant light faded, leaving a single fruit. At the same time, Leonard thought, that abundant life force protected me and this cave from the raging pillar of fire. Holding the fruit, he remarked to himself that it felt perfectly natural in his hand. Then Leonard wondered suspiciously whether it had truly sucked up every last drop of mana. He turned and called back, I'll plant a new seed for you. Come to think of it, you just saved my skin. Then Leonard hurriedly ran out of that dark cave. He dashed like lightning, thinking if he's late he'll be suspected. Gotta skedaddle fast. A loud sound echoed. The earth and stones sealing the cave mouth seemed to be shattered by some force. Leonard, not a scratch on him, shot out from inside to the outside. He's dripping sweat from exhaustion but grins smugly. I'm a bit too strong now. I overdid it earlier. Hope no one makes a fuss about this. From a distance, Leonard could already see the city right ahead. He glanced at the fur on his shoulder. Phew, made it back in time. Leonard looked at his ragged clothes and raised an eyebrow, thinking that explaining this appearance to the seniors would be a pain. Better tidy up first. Besides, we've trained together at this hour every day for 3 months. At the same moment, Haydn exclaimed in surprise. Then he pointed nervously at the door, sweating. Hey, look, the door opened by itself. Haydn was startled by the sight. Since when did that happen? Yan, all smiles, ran up to Leonard. Hi, I'm Yan, call me senior. Hearing that, he bowed politely and introduced himself. I'm Leonard. With his sword in hand, Leonard hesitated and asked, Senior, honestly, my sword skills have stagnated lately. Would you spar with me? He looked a bit worried and sweaty. That sounds sudden. I'm fine either way, but are you sure you're up for it? Leonard replied calmly. It'd be an honor to learn from you. Yan, confident, ran a hand through his hair. Since you asked, I can't refuse. Haydn watched helplessly and called out, Hey Yan. Then he smirked and suggested, Come with me, I'll show you the bearing of a Cadena's knight. A thought popped into Leonard's head. Perfect, now I'm in control. Suddenly Yan's eyes widened in shock, as if he'd just seen something unbelievable. He looked at his body with a bewildered expression. Why am I hovering in midair? The outcome was clear. Yan lost the spar. Ju, after tasting Leonard's power, sat down and raised his hand. I yield. Ju lost too. A loud noise rang out, and the vision of Haydn being bewildered by Leonard's speed appeared. He ground his teeth and challenged, unwilling to accept it. Damn, could this be the skill of someone fresh from the training ground? At that moment, something suddenly lunged toward Haydn, making him stare in surprise. By reflex, he lifted his hand to block the attack. At the same time, a red power flowed along Haydn's arm. Yan, startled, shouted, Haydn, are you crazy? Why use mana here? He went pale at the words. Then the 3 of them ran over in fear. Haydn, worried, loudly asked Leonard, Leonard, are you okay? Leonard, his hands smoking, replied calmly, yes. He looked a bit flustered and quickly explained, sorry, instinct made me use a defensive move. He glanced at the wound in his palm and thought, turns out just using mana to block a sword can cause damage. Guess swordsmanship isn't everything. Leonard curled the corner of his mouth into a slight smile. A thought followed. I only meant to help them train to repay the disguise favor, but there's a lot I can learn here. Haydn, still uneasy, hesitated and asked, aren't you angry, Leonard? Using his injured hand, he took up his sword and cheerfully said, I'd be glad to keep training with you all. It would be really fun with everyone. He sounded surprised. You really want to keep training? He honestly replied. If possible, I'd train like this every day. Yen bit his nails nervously, sweating. All right, we'll drop by your tent often. For networking's sake, I can't miss this opportunity. The image of a hand knocking a few times on the wooden door appeared. He ran a hand through his hair, raised an eyebrow and announced, Leonard, are you joining? Sorry, tonight's practice is probably canceled. Leonard opened the door and wondered what was going on. The two others weren't around. A question popped up. Their gear looks different than usual. Are they heading into real combat? Then he said, haven't you heard about the big explosion near Bone Mountain Swamp? It's causing chaos, so I rushed over to tell you. Leonard breathed a sigh of relief. Good, seems I'm not a suspect. Next, Yan, sweating, recounted that a werewolf and a troll, both at the fiend tier, fought over territory in Bone Mountain Swamp. The troll was roasted to ashes, and the werewolf died gruesomely, its skin flayed clean. He then said gravely that it must have been a horrific deathmatch. Now the two bosses are dead, and low-level monsters are swarming the swamp to loot. He wiped his brow and suggested, as you see, we need to clean up this mess, treat it as tonight's drill. You're not ready for real combat, so stay here and rest. Suddenly Yan reached behind him for something. Almost forgot, I have a gift for you. Yan tossed several swords to the ground and said, you've probably broken quite a few swords, huh? Nothing fancy, I'm giving you these 5. They're decent enough. Leonard looked a bit dazed. Thanks a lot. Yan pointed at himself with a smile. When you make a name for yourself, don't forget me, okay? Leonard smiled and nodded. Sure thing, Senior Yan. Yan left but didn't forget to warn him. Also, don't wander around today. Most island knights are gathered at the swamp. You should be fine, but be careful. Sometimes sword skills alone aren't enough. He answered solemnly, I appreciate your advice. At the same time, a thought occurred. I didn't expect this to escalate to involve the knights. If I move carelessly, things could get messy. Still, this is a golden chance while everyone's attention is elsewhere. Footsteps echoed in the quiet. Leonard pulled his hood on and frowned, thinking he could act bolder without worry. Even so, using the disguise technique now is risky. With the seniors' locations known, if I run into someone while disguised as Haydn, it'll only cause another mess. He then, slightly displeased and annoyed, said he'd use the werewolf's pelt. Leonard silently resolved, stern-faced. Once most people are concentrated in one spot, I can move freely. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He looked forward toward the opposite side of the training ground. Let's go explore the owl fields. Before Leonard stretched a vast natural landscape. Leonard took in the surroundings. It's really quiet. He had spotted enemies around and waited for them to attack. Keep watching me from deep in that thick fog. I can feel that murderous gaze clearly, so why haven't they charged yet? He muttered as he walked, not sure if they're being cautious or have lost their nerve. At this rate, it's just a waste of time. A bird dove from the sky at incredible speed. The bird stopped in front of him and stared at him. Leonard slowly greeted his first opponent. You're the first challenger, a harpy. He was delighted to test his skill. A monster your size is perfect for me to test my skills on. The 5th Kurji Spectre announced to everyone, we're here. This is Kalabog Island. He stood before the group and shared, we've lost 2 members so far. He said with bitterness, it seems they couldn't catch the updraft and fell into the sea. Look at this, after serving the kingdom their whole lives. He complained irritably, does heaven have no pity for us? He used that as motivation to drive the others. We must not let our comrades' deaths be in vain. At all costs we must finish this mission. For the kingdom of Kurjis. The 5th Kurji Spectre cried, we must capture that Kadina's trainee alive. We have to expose every secret about their filthy bloodline. The men followed his orders and split into tasks. Show no mercy, even if the target is a child. They are the root of all crime. In a barren desert area where the sun shone everywhere, Gron ran frantically across the desert, mentally unsteady. I've somehow gotten separated from everyone. He thought back in panic. I wonder how many rank monsters are on this island. Thinking that without the captain, he didn't dare fight at all. Gron wondered, what exactly are the Kadina's devils plotting on this island? He ran while clutching his mask, but since entering the plane, he hadn't seen any threatening monster. Gron quietly rejoiced. Lucky, the deeper into the island the monsters seemed weaker. Or in other words, someone already dealt with them, which was fine. Seeing a monster standing ahead, Gron didn't hesitate to charge. That's probably a harpy. It's strong, but I can handle it. He quickly moved closer to the monster. As he was about to deliver a killing blow, he realized the monster had been dead for a long time. Wait, when did this monster die? Gron stood on the creature's body and wondered, was someone else here? He glanced around to assess the situation and realized not just one had been taken down. What a skilled fighter. A rock flew from somewhere toward where Gron stood. He wasn't surprised and easily tossed it aside. Who's standing there? Leonard appeared with a question. That's the question I was about to ask. Gron saw him and blurted out in astonishment, "What the?" His mouth seemed sealed, speechless. Leonard kept pressing, "Who exactly are you?" He took a stance and used his power. "Now you can't speak anymore, can you? Let me find out who you are myself." Gron panicked at being unable to speak. "Damn it, my voice." He gripped his sword tightly, preparing to strike back. He swung a powerful blow at Leonard. Leonard calmly dodged and quipped that the slash was full of killing intent. "Seems you don't intend to hold back, do you?" All his attacks were easily neutralized by him. Gron was astonished by the boy's talent. "My attack was stopped by a kid." Leonard stomped and prepared to lunge forward. He dashed swiftly toward him and unleashed a powerful strike that left him no time to parry. He wondered why the blow hadn't done as much damage as expected. The cut so shallow, was something blocking it, some magic artifact. Gron used a secret sword technique, summoning a powerful golden serpent. He muttered that he never thought he'd have to use this on a brat. If he didn't lay it all out, he'd be the one in trouble. Leonard saw through the move immediately. "Are you hiding something in your sword?" A sly, vicious assassination technique, like a venomous snake. He lunged at Gron with a taunt, "Still too green. Your swordplay is so obvious it's boring." They closed into close quarters. While fighting, Leonard taunted, "You've only been bullying shrimp and prawns so far, haven't you?" Gron still smiled despite being hit by Leonard's unexpected strength. He used some mysterious power to lock down Leonard's attack. He said casually, "I almost feel sorry for you, but I didn't expect you to throw your sword away willingly." Leonard's next action shocked Gron. This kid, he actually dared to toss his sword. Leonard clenched his fist, ready to swing at him. He wasn't suppressed by that strange power and boldly countered, "You think I'm useless if you lock my weapon. What a child's thought." He delivered a mighty blow that sent him flying. Unbelievably, Gron landed with a bruised face but still praised the boy's strength. At that age and with such bold strikes and judgment, really, could he have awakened that filthy bloodline's power already? Night fell, leaving only moonlight over the barren land. Leonard strolled on calmly. Leonard tied the man to a tree and warned, "Understand the situation now. I'm pretty sure your mana and body are useless. Your life is in my hands." Gron, tied up, still spat curses. "You coward." He hurled insults at him. "Filthy Kadina's demon, using that despicable power to humiliate my pride. I'll never forgive you." Leonard was left momentarily stunned by that. He pointed at the magic-oozing weapon and shot back sarcastically, "What are you babbling about? Aren't you using a similar magic artifact yourself? After doing that you call me coward, what an idiot." He stubbornly retorted, "Shut up. Against the Kadinas there's no such thing as dirty play. I'll expose the freakish power you're using." Leonard raised his fist, leaving the man puzzled. He shouted resolutely, "Just kill me already." Leonard coolly replied, "Whether you live or die is up to me. You don't even have the right to beg for death." Gron remained defiant, unafraid. "Even if I die, I won't utter a word. You brat with that unclean bloodline." He'd heard that enough to ask, "Unclean blood? You mean the blood of the Kadina's family?" Leonard looked at his blood-stained hand and thought, while the man kept mumbling in his ear, "You can't deny the crime running through your veins." He bluntly said, "Raised in that wicked house, you should know better. You lot aren't truly human, and if some mutant-born monster shows up, it's bound to have been born among your kind." Leonard angled a question back. "You seem to know quite a bit. Let's see exactly what you really know." Gron kept pressing Leonard, "Answer me. If your bloodline had no secrets, why doesn't any branch live outside the border?" He reasoned that if your ancestors were legitimate, there'd be no need for secrecy. Leonard was momentarily taken aback by that. Leonard shot back, "Are you jealous of Kadina's wealth and power, so much that you'd abandon knightly honor to kidnap children? If you wanted a fair fight from the start, why use these cheap binding tricks?" He taunted him, "Even if Kadina's secret were exposed, you'd still be the same. Frontier rabble, no power, no honor." Leaning in with a lethal look, he said, "With that shabby pride, how do you intend to explain yourselves to your ancestors?" Gron, unafraid, snapped back, "Don't get cocky, brat. How dare you insult the name Kyrgyz?" Leonard exclaimed, "So you're from Kyrgyz?" Gron, surprised, asked, "What, you already know?" He decisively struck a killing blow. When minds panic, people sometimes forget the obvious. Gron managed only 2 words, "Monstrous." Leonard warned him, "You've opened your mana channels. You're about to die, but before that you will tell me everything you know." A recollection began. Kyrgyz, a small kingdom in the west of the continent. Centuries ago it was hailed as a knight's sanctuary. That was before Kadina's appeared. The Kyrgyz knights were defeated by Kadina's Red Dragon Order. With that single defeat, the world forgot Kyrgyz and Kadina's became the new knight's sanctuary. Leonard demanded of Gron, "So you attacked Kadina's to reclaim glory?" Before he could answer, Leonard continued, and dig up their bloodline's secrets. Funny enough, I'm pretty curious too. Leonard cautiously considered other dangerous people, but the main issue was that the island housed beings who'd reached a transcendent realm. He gripped his sword hilt and thought, I must report this to Sir Bradley. His sword began to emit a faint, magical glow. As he gathered power, he thought, the enemy is Kurji's spectral Knight Order. Pointing his blade at Gron, he warned, most knights on the island are still trainees. This is far too dangerous. Leonard decisively sliced him, spraying blood. You claim to be the third phantom, right? Time for your performance. Everything shifted his thinking. I don't have time for long explanation. Just proof that there's a Swordmaster-class enemy on the island. He looked at his sword and exclaimed, still a fake, huh? A dry wind blew up a swirl of dust. Well, this will do for now. Leonard decided, I'll take these magical items. He hoisted the man over his shoulder and prepared to leave. Any objections? He began to take step after step on this solid ground. Somewhere, huts were built right next to each other. 3 of them relaxed for a moment. Finally, some free hands. Yeah, since we were deployed, we haven't had a proper rest. They walked and chatted. Please, nothing weird happens tonight. Hey Yan, look over there, what is that? They all turned their gaze to the same spot. Is that a corpse? They discovered Gron's body. Call Sir Bradley immediately. Hurry. Bradley examined the wound on the body and realized something. This is. He pondered sword aura, an attack only true swordmasters can unleash in battle. He turned his attention to the crumpled note beside it. So that note was telling the truth. The contents of the crumpled note seemed like a confession of regret for attacking the young trainees. Bradley muttered to himself, Kurji's spectral Knight Order has many experts, even a commander at a transcendent realm leading them, and they're heading straight for the trainees' quarter. He gritted his teeth and said irritably, even pooling our forces, we'd only just hold them off. But the leader is the real problem. Bradley ordered, Yan, sound the alarm across the island. This is an emergency. Yan hurriedly complied. Yes, sir. The atmosphere there grew extremely tense. Everyone was now in a state of high urgency, their footsteps following one another without hesitation. Leonard saw events unfolding just as he'd predicted, so they're calling everyone to assemble. Looks like Sir Bradley caught on to my plan. Bradley stood before them and announced loudly, listen up, this is not a drill. A very powerful enemy has invaded Calabog Island. Everyone listened attentively to his instruction. Bradley's news made them deeply worried. About 30 attackers far beyond level 8 of external force, and at least one knight has reached the transcendent realm of Swordmaster. He warned cautiously about the danger. You know how strong transcendent experts are. Look at Captain Fabian of the Azure Dragon Knights. Treat them like walking natural disasters. Numbers mean nothing to them. Bradley presented 2 options. Choose now. 1. Open a spatial gate and flee, abandon the island and wait for reinforcements. The other option is hard. Stay and fight the enemy. Decide Kadina's trainee knights. Leonard remained calm before the approaching storm. A real battle like this would be a life-changing experience for them, assuming they survived. No one would blame them if they chose to retreat. The way others responded surprised him a little. They were resolute in their choice. We will fight. They gripped their sword hilts with confidence and declared, we won't be easy to defeat. We've grown stronger too. Let them see what we can do. He looked at them differently again. Fighting with death so close isn't easy. After all, they were knights. He'd underestimated them. Everyone raised their swords and shouted, we will fight. The scene looked heroic and full of spirit. Bradley smiled with pleasure at their action. He stepped forward and opened the great door, praising their courage while remaining cautious. Good, I respect your decision, but facing a transcendent is a different matter. We'll call Captain Fabian for support. He reminded everyone, prepare yourselves mentally. Leonard was off walking somewhere at that moment. He stood before the cave he'd dug himself, meaning he'd have to use the little dugout next to the sleeping area. He was glad but not careless, focusing on the main task. He was under protection, so they were evacuating him. Convenient. Time to check those new toys he borrowed. Leonard held his finger out and inspected them. Most were broken. It seemed only this magic ring still worked. A small change occurred that left him puzzled. The gem on the ring began to glow. He watched the stone dissolve and guessed his heart was blocking external mana. Ah, so I can't use any magical gear then. Leonard rechecked everything and realized the only useful thing was the Shadow Clan's signal device. He'd coerced that 33rd Phantom into revealing how to use it, so it was fine. He told himself he'd ambush them if he found them. If discovered, he'd use it as bait. Leonard stopped hiding and started moving. The only one to watch out for was that swordmaster. His eyes flashed with resolve. I won't let you do whatever you please. Leonard quickly moved out to the open ground. As he ran, he thought, there's a call for reinforcements. This probably isn't from that transcendent boss. They likely don't know I'm the enemy yet, right? He acted decisively. While they were in chaos, he'd finish them off. Just wait, I'm coming. Elsewhere, equally barren, only dry branches remain. A swirl of purple light tore at the ground, sending dirt and rocks flying. The black-robed men were being attacked and badly wounded. You filthy bastards. The cloaked men, overwhelmed by the monster's force, could only grumble, "What's wrong with this island? We can't handle that kind of thing." The creature was grotesque, seemingly about to strike. It hurled something black toward them to attack. Seeing things go south, they retreated. Prioritize the mission, ignore it and fall back. There's allies approaching this way. Two of them ran and argued. That beast is A-rank, but alone. If reinforcements arrive, we can probably take it down. Hey, one exclaimed in surprise. Don't tell me that incoming ally is him. Leonard appeared unexpectedly and quickly dealt with a few. He just sent 3 of his own off on their way. Another shouted worriedly, "How does he know how to use that thing?" Leonard casually explained to the black-robed men, "I just scared him a bit, and he spilled everything. Turns out your beloved organization isn't all that." They riled up, charged at him. Bastard. Leonard stood calmly in the battlefield with 2 swords and said, "I'll avenge my comrades." The cloaked men surged forward in fury, but one was quickly dealt with. "Shut up, this is real revenge for my friend. Damn you, Cadina's devil." The other, shocked at how easily his comrade fell, dared not advance. Leonard reminded that cloaked man, "Have you forgotten what you're fighting?" He then focused. The manticore. That grotesque monster prepared to leap and attack. It surged forward with murderous intent to strike. Leonard stood aside watching the lion-bodied, snake-tailed creature, its face utterly grotesque, definitely an A-rank manticore. He skimmed it over and wondered. They say you can tell how strong it is by its face, but it even has a human face. What the heck are you? The beast seemed to hear him and paused for a moment. Then it suddenly uttered 2 words, human. Its voice startled Leonard. A monster that can speak human language. It turned its back to him and declared, "If I fight you, I'll die." Seeing its caution, he marveled. "It can read my strength too. Impressive." The beast said something puzzling, "But I'm not that easy to kill. If I stall long enough, he'll arrive." Leonard was curious who it meant. The creature offered a surprising piece of info. "Someone far stronger than I am." Leonard looked at the fallen and guessed, the leader. They call him the 5th Phantom. Alone he's scarier than all the troops who landed on this island combined. His thoughts went to the Swordmaster. At his current realm, he couldn't face him. Leonard considered cautiously. If the beast was telling the truth, staying would be dangerous, but he still challenged it aloud. "You think I'll trust a monster's word?" The creature pressed its blazing red eyes close and taunted. "If you don't fear death, come on then." He turned, sheathed one sword, preparing to leave. "Big mouth, you're spared this time, don't expect a second." Leonard walked away slowly. The beast roared spiritedly, "Idiot." Leonard turned to look, "Just as I thought." He quickly hurled a sword, wrapped in his blue power, toward the creature. His strike hit with crushing force, right at the head. The grotesque beast was completely struck by his blow. You knew beforehand. It snarled, whining as it counterattacked. "It hurts." With 2 swords in hand, Leonard slashed, blood spraying from the creature. The second strike hit the lung. He easily struck and moved on. The third pierced straight through the heart. "Just as you said, I can't linger here long. I'm leaving now." The stone's light flared and amazed. He fixed his gaze on the gem's glow. Decisively, he discarded the necklace. "He's here." A heavily disguised, cloaked figure was charging in. He landed on the ground with force. The cloaked man bent down and picked up the stone still glowing blue. He said regretfully, "I'm late. If I'd arrived a bit earlier, we might have made history together." He then swung his sword decisively. "Anyone." His strike released a burst of green energy. Leonard was hiding behind a rock. He cautiously and quickly retreated. At that distance, he could still sense me. Staying here would be suicide for sure. He threw out every hidden trick to flee. Who knew my tunnel-digging knack would save me someday? Gotta get far away from this guy. The man stood motionless. He looked around and murmured to himself, "Did I imagine it? Not like him at all." He thought the mission had gone seriously off course. His instincts were buzzing. He left the chaos of blades and bodies behind. "Rest well, your sacrifices won't be in vain. Sleep tight." He muttered, "Our objective is complete." A hand reached up from the ground, and Leonard sprang out. A wounded soldier leaning against a tree saw him and asked, "Who are you?" "Knight of Cadina's, you're too late." The man, gravely wounded, realized, a trainee. The knight asked him to pass a message. "As you can see, I don't have much time, tell the other knights." One swordmaster wiped out 43 mid-level knights in an instant. The knight recounted that 8 trainee knights were on patrol. The information Leonard received was shocking. They've been taken away by them. Leonard looked around. So they were captured and taken away. He wondered silently how they could have led the hostages through here and escaped. He reviewed everything. Their goal was to collect experimental subjects. They'd want the captives alive and transported safely. If that's true, only one method he knew would work: mass teleportation, a spell that moves many people to one location at once. Leonard stared into the distance and told himself, I need to hurry. They've already achieved their goal. He deduced their route. To move that many people at once, they'd need a huge area, which meant he could guess where they were heading. Leonard pressed the knight for details. Is Sir Bradley pursuing them? The knight, exhausted but helpful, replied, He's scouring the entire area with his men. Leonard said, I understand. You rest here a bit then. The knight, puzzled, asked, Rest? What do you mean by that? Leonard knocked the knight unconscious. Leonard flatly mocked, You completely misjudged it, Sir Bradley. He slung the knight over his shoulder and assessed the situation. He had to get Sir Bradley the truth, otherwise Cadina's would be crushed. But advice from a trainee carried no weight. He laid out his plan. I'll personally lead Sir Bradley there myself. Meanwhile, Bradley was leading his men, searching everywhere. He cursed as he marched. Did they all flee? Cowards who abandoned a knight's pride. Suddenly he shouted, Who's there? The sudden appearance put the troops on guard, ready to counterattack. Bradley guessed the technique was a remnant of Kurji's. Leonard had taken those men's clothes to disguise himself, and he began to move. Leonard easily slipped through them while Bradley barked orders to pursue. Stop standing like statues. Kill that intruder now. Seeing them act as he wanted, he moved too. Good, chase after me. He moved while keeping an eye on them. A rain of blades flew at him. No chance of escape. Leonard nonchalantly rode along on the edge of a blade. He moved fluidly as if skimming the ground. He leapt from side to side, charging forward, then landed on the ground light. Bradley kept close behind with his keen blade lunging. Kurji's people are surprisingly nimble, huh? Leonard thought with relief. Good, leading them this far is a success. He easily dodged the man's powerful strike. Bastard, how dare you? His actions left Bradley puzzled. Bradley realized the shoreline. How did he chase so far without noticing they'd arrived? Leonard watched from behind and silently prayed, Don't die on me, Sir Bradley. He thought to himself that the real enemy was about to reveal themselves. Another strange set of armor appeared nearby. The cloaked figure strode forward full of killing intent. So someone actually sniffed their way here. No rush to hand over your head, dog of Cadina's. The two began trading barbs. So you're the mastermind behind this mess. This is only the first step of a grand enterprise. Bradley sneered, Kidnapping kids a grand enterprise. You won't leave this island. Surrender while you can. The other coolly replied, Don't be hasty. The hooded leader smiled and explained, You really think we landed here without a plan? He raised his hand, creating a sudden surge of energy, and declared boldly, You lot are done for. Bradley recognized it and reacted. That's mass teleportation magic. Don't even dream it. The hooded leader confidently said, 15 minutes to complete. In the meantime, I'll personally deal with you to pass the time. The two launched into a one-on-one fight. Struggle all you want. Bradley seemed to struggle against the leader's strength. Leonard stood above watching and silently begged, Hold on a little longer, Sir Bradley. He told himself, I'll bring the knights back. At another gathering point, a magic circle appeared. This seemed to be the kidnapper camp, where the trainees were held, and Leonard had blended in with their number. He kept his eyes on everything. Even after masking his presence, they didn't glance his way. They were so focused on the fight they were wide open. If so, he slipped inside where the prisoners were held. Chains bound the people, emanating a faint, eerie aura. Still, that didn't blunt the sharpness of Leonard's blade. The chains were cut clean through. Did I miss? Once freed, the people were suspicious. Aren't you from Kurji's? Why are you saving us? Leonard warned them, I don't owe you an explanation, and I don't have time. Get out of here now. They all looked toward him. He watched them closely. All the knights, despite the danger, kept their manners. We're truly grateful to you. They quickly departed, leaving the hut with only him inside. Good, so the hostage affair was over. Leonard smiled. Now all that remained was. He casually stepped out holding two swords. He struck decisively at the men outside. They couldn't react in time and he dealt with them neatly, just cleaning up the trash. He leisurely took care of them, one by one. Over there Bradley had fallen into misfortune, having lost an arm. The hooded boss still shrugged and said, Not quite satisfying yet, but consider it a warm-up. He clutched his wound in pain. Damn it. The hooded leader confidently declared, The game's over here. Soon, Kurji's will reclaim the peak of swordsmanship once more. He realized, I sense it. The saboteur of our plan is coming. The hooded man dashed off, leaving Bradley behind. Leonard also noticed the unusual arrival. The guy hurtled down with such force the ground cracked. He took a defensive stance against the fifth phantom. The fifth phantom of Kurji sneered, How disappointing. Turns out my killer and the one blocking our grand plan is just a brat. than to honor my fallen comrades. I will bury you here." The man pointed his sword at him, full of murder intent. However, glancing across the battlefield at the scattered teleport circles, the commander was horrified to realize his subordinates had all been defeated. Completely disoriented, the invader tried to process how a kid could single-handedly clear an entire base. Blind fury took over. He lost control and screamed madly at the tragic failure of his brothers in arms. He launched a devastating slash at the protagonist, vowing to tear the Kadina's demon to pieces. Dodging the strike by inches, the teen admitted that a swordmaster's level was absurd, and he'd have to play his trump card sooner than planned. As the enemy dove from above, screaming for his blood, Leonard focused his mana to materialize a pure aura blade. The leader retreated in horror, baffled at how an ordinary trainee could perform such an advanced technique. Holding the glowing sword, the hero coldly replied that the secret behind his skill was none of the leader's business. In a new, massive clash between them, Leonard calculated he could only maintain this state for 3 minutes and had to finish it immediately. Completely unhinged, the villain attacked relentlessly, spouting death threats after each brutal. Parrying the stabs with extreme calm, the protagonist realized the enemy had lost his mind, and the fight became easier to control. Creating distance strategically, he deliberately exposed a flaw, while the swordmaster thought he'd found an opening to counterattack. Analyzing the enemy's patterns, he decided to close the gap bit by bit while lightly evading the heavy strikes. Just then, the cruel leader warned he'd captured the target, shocking him with the trap attack. Pulling out a hidden claw from his glove, the criminal revealed the weapon had been coated with a terrible poison. 1 drop was enough to kill. He sneered, explaining the toxin would reach his heart in seconds and completely destroy his mana flow. Landing in the distance after a light scratch, the hero smirked, "Thanks for the tutorial." While the swordmaster was gloating, a fierce green energy inside the young man's body destroyed the invading poison's essence without a trace. Seeing his opponent completely unscathed, the agent panicked and demanded to know why his deadly toxin had no effect at all. The reincarnated youth wondered if his special heart neutralized both poison and curses, all while keeping up a threatening stance. Exploiting his enemy's desperation, the protagonist launched a fierce attack and repeated that his secret wasn't for trash like him. Unable to withstand the student's overwhelming power, the leader was shoved back, feeling the crushing force of the blow. Cornered, the villain summoned giant magical serpents to swallow the entire scene. He leapt into the air, casting chaotic runes in a desperate bid to crush him from afar. Easily dodging the deadly vines, he wondered whether the swordmaster had completely lost control of his own technique. Noticing the overwhelming barrage blocking the path, the hero realized sneaking behind him had become impossible. Unfazed by the danger, the swordsman charged into the chaos, vowing to break the barrier with raw power. Spinning his blade into a destructive green cyclone, he smashed the head of the magical serpent into 1,000 pieces. Hit by the violent shockwave, the leader staggered back, dragging his boots across the ground to avoid collapsing. With wounded pride, the swordmaster cursed the annoying kid for humiliating a warrior of his caliber. Hiding amid the chaotic mass of vines, the criminal swore to drag the brat to hell with him at all costs. In response to the caster's hatred, tendrils of green energy began whipping through the air like mad things. Rushing toward the enemy, the hero noticed the agent was pushing his mana to the limit in a reckless attack. Using green branches as a springboard, he advanced, declaring all that flashy magic was nothing but cheap bait. In a swift dash, he slashed through the runes in his path, focusing only on staying calm and quickly taking down the foe. Pouring all remaining energy into his sword, the protagonist made precise cuts to erase the field of vision. He destroyed the last defensive layers of the opponent's technique, without slowing his fierce assault through the air. Spotting the unprotected body of the swordmaster ahead, the young man rejoiced. His final target was now in perfect range. He lunged like a bullet, aiming to pierce the villain's chest with a violent thrust. To the hero's surprise, a hidden magical device in the armor activated, producing an electric shield instantly. The defensive blast violently hurled him backward as he tried to deal with the coward's additional trick. Seizing the moment of stunned daze, the leader grabbed the student's tunic, mocking the young hero for slacking off at the last second. He asked if the boy thought he was just casting blind magic, revealing that he'd been waiting for him to come close from the start. He clamped the opponent with a poisonous black-green aura. The villain warned the brat's luck was over and declared the game was finished. However, Fabian struggled up from behind, radiating a fierce red magic, and warned that wouldn't happen. In an instant, the veteran unleashed a gigantic slash at the assassin. Completely terrified, the leader panicked, not understanding who had struck from the void. The slash struck the invader in the back, a payment for the fallen soldier. Coughing and sputtering, the leader asked if the teen really intended to take him down by using himself as bait. He confirmed that the enemy was so focused on him, they didn't notice the mission commander approaching, then landed on the field light. The instructor apologized for being late. He praised the student's insane growth in such a short time and thanked him for saving his comrade. As the other knights arrived, the veteran said he had a few questions to ask, but the protagonist cut in immediately, asking if they could talk after he got some sleep. Understanding the boy's exhaustion, the superior agreed and told him to rest. Shortly after, the commander's face turned deadly serious. Focusing on the invader bound in magic chains, he vowed to start by cleaning up that pile of trash. Even defeated, the leader muttered that this was far from over. Hearing the threat, the commander sensed that something very wrong was happening. Wasting no time, the veteran launched a full-force attack, declaring it would end here and now. At that moment, the assassin's body collapsed, while a strange energy pushed the protagonist backward. Surprised by the trick, the instructor finally realized who the real target had been from the start. Grabbing the student with his magical form, the villain swore to drag the brat along until his last breath. A towering column of light swallowed them both in a flash teleportation rune. As the light winked out, the knights were stunned by the hero's disappearance from the battlefield. At the camp, one soldier exclaimed skeptically that the student had actually been taken by the enemy. Analyzing the magic circle on the ground, the commander concluded an imperfect spell had thrown them into a completely unfamiliar place. Frustrated with the situation, the veteran blamed himself for lowering his guard because he thought he was the target. Trying to reassure his superior, a subordinate reminded him that no one expected the real target to be the young trainee. The soldier reasoned that the enemy must have seen a great threat in the brat, enough to abandon their ideals to capture. Recalling Leonard's skills, the knight admitted he'd never seen such terrifying growth in history. Commenting on the rookies, he pointed out the boy's level far exceeded that of a typical recruit. Gazing toward the horizon, the warrior wagered that a new legend was about to be written by the Cadina's family. Determined to fix the problem, the commander agreed to call for reinforcements immediately and handed over command to a comrade. With a resolute look, the veteran declared they must find the trainee at all costs. Meanwhile, the hero drifted, unconscious on a plank in the vast ocean. Slowly regaining consciousness, the castaway spotted a massive structure approaching on the water. Smelling the sea and feeling the constant rocking, the boy finally realized he was being rescued by a ship. Suddenly, a red-haired girl burst through the cabin door, cheering that the patient was awake. In a demanding tone, she warned she had 1,000 questions and required answers in exchange for saving his life. Mood shifting quickly, the captain introduced himself as Francis and asked the boy's name in a friendly way. Still processing the odd situation, the swordsman simply watched the young woman reach out to him. Shaking the hand of his rescuer, he politely introduced himself and mentioned his home empire. Shocked by that, the girl wondered how he had ended up so far from home. Avoiding her gaze awkwardly, the protagonist summed up the mess by saying it was just an accident. Recalling the swordmaster's ambush, he explained he'd been sucked into some spatial magic and blacked out afterward. Impressed that he survived the rune, the captain quickly concluded the boy must be part of the feared Cadina's family. The brown-haired assistant analyzed his trained physique and agreed it was the only logical explanation for his strength. Leonard confirmed the suspicion without hesitation and was surprised to realize his family's reputation had crossed the ocean. Worried about the consequences, the assistant whispered that his boss should keep his distance to avoid trouble. At that moment, a crewman barged into the room in a panic, begging the leader to run to the city harbor. With blood on his brow, the sailor warned them the ship was under attack by dangerous thugs. On the main deck, an arrogant blonde man was smashing everything in his path, leading a violent gang. Angry at the cowardice, the brown-haired girl drew her weapon, realizing the attackers struck on a day of lax security. The captain apologized for the mess as the protagonist left the bed, ready for action. Before rushing out, the red-haired girl told him he was free to leave as soon as he felt better. Alone in the room, the young man looked at his kit and clothes folded neatly in the corner. He recalled asking why she would save a stranger at sea. In his memory, the young woman simply replied that she never abandons anyone who needs a helping hand. Seeing the leader charge into a hopeless fight, Leonard thought she was the one who needed help most right now. At the dock, the invading group had fully surrounded the captain's ship, waiting for their boss's order. Striding forward with steady steps, the arrogant leader mocked the red-haired girl's appearance for a showdown. Gripping their swords, the two guards faced the opponent, questioning the reason for this uninvited visit. Irritated by her bold reply, the blonde cracked a sly smile, trying to keep his anger in check. Growing impatient, the thug told his assistant to shut up and threatened to smash anyone who drew a weapon against him. Gritting her teeth in hatred, The brown-haired girl muttered the bastard's name, restraining the urge to attack on the spot. Putting a hand up to shield her ally, the captain asked the opponent to pull his rabble back so they could settle this one-on-one. Staring down the red-haired girl at close range, the bastard told her to drop the stubborn act and hand over the ship immediately. Pointing at the majestic vessel, he taunted her that the royal legacy was rotting in her hands. Holding his ground, the leader shot back the insult, reminding him that her father's death didn't make him master of everything. With crystal-clear resolve, the girl told the invader to get lost because she would never hand over her precious. Drawing his blade threateningly, the villain warned her to sell the ship now before he completely ran out of patience. Before the thug could finish his threat, someone dove down from above and brutally smashed one of his lackeys into the ground. Brushing dust off his clothes, the hero calmly stood and asked permission to take down the enemy leader first. Completely shocked by the swordsman's brutal arrival, the girls and the thugs stared at the scene, not understanding what had happened. Looking at the wreckage, the thug leader panicked, telling his men to pick up the severed arm and cursing the captain in fury. Outraged by the unexpected turn, the invaders lost control. Blaming the girls, he ordered his men to sweep them all away, and then asked the hero what he had done to his brother. Not giving the enemy a chance to react, Leonard lunged in and cut down the lackeys with ease. Immediately after, the swordsman slid his blade back into its sheath with a flash of movement. Seizing the opening, the protagonist delivered a direct blow to the arrogant leader's face. With a brutal impact, the bastard collapsed unconscious right in front of Francis and her assistant. Impressed by his speed, the brown-haired girl remarked the thug didn't even get a chance, while the captain realized the real power of the Cadina's family. Standing on the downed enemy's back, the hero noticed the man had actually managed to reattach his own arm. Standing beside the body, the boy turned to the girls and asked what they wanted to do with the defeated man. However, both remained completely silent, just processing the absurdity of what had happened. Noticing his rescuer's hesitation, the trainee found the reaction strange and asked if something was wrong. With a long sigh, Francis admitted the trash on the ground was the illegitimate son of the most powerful man in Atlantis. With a completely serious face, she began to explain how things worked around. The captain revealed that the Atlantis Maritime Alliance is run by a powerful council that rules all those seas. The red-haired girl detailed that the invader's father was Pablo L. Orlando Peterson, one of the council's top 5 bosses. Analyzing the information, the reincarnated boy realized he'd walked into much bigger trouble than he imagined and thought about how to get out. Then he called the captain by her name, immediately capturing her attention. Bluntly, the swordsman told her he'd be her bodyguard for a while. Observing the gleaming ship, the protagonist planned to stay aboard to handle problems and gather useful information. Standing amid the rubble of the fallen men, Leonard finalized with a casual line, "So I'll be your bodyguard then." Francis couldn't hide her excitement. She beamed and warmly welcomed the new member to the two exchanged a formal handshake in front of Marion. The deal was sealed. Leonard smiled softly, beginning to call Francis by her first name instead of the formal address he'd used before. Back with the criminal lying face down, the group discussed how to deal with him. The task now was to find a place to lock him up. Francis said even his father had abandoned the child, so keeping him alive would be enough. Leonard glanced at the battlefield one last time and then walked off nonchalantly. Dealing with this mess felt like a weight lifted. The click of heels on stone echoed as they set off. Francis led confidently. She reminded Leonard to follow her and entrusted him with the duty of protection. Leonard nodded shortly, ready for the new journey ahead. On the way, Francis suggested he just call her Fran for familiarity instead of calling her Cap. Leonard hesitated a bit, then tried calling her that again. Fran looked very pleased with the change. The group drew near Bermuda. Before them rose a magnificent port city under a clear blue sky. The city's entrance was ringed by giant magical walls of water, surging wild. Leonard couldn't help gawking as he walked between those waters. In Arcadia, he'd never seen anything this fantastic. Leonard kept his eyes peeled, marveling at the splendor of the place. Fran explained this was a commercial city where appearances are everything to flaunt power. They stopped before the Atlantis Explorer's office, an imposing building with distinctive architecture. As soon as they entered, Fran pulled out her ID to handle the team's formalities. A notice popped up confirming the identity: B007, leader of Team Aquamarine Francis L. von Oceanus. Verification complete. The magical wall emitted brilliant blue rays as the door opened. Fran led Leonard into the Zephyrus Hall, a luxurious area reserved for B-rank exploration teams. Leonard scanned the area carefully, his red eyes missing no detail in the upscale waiting hall. He walked on the expensive carpet, keenly aware of the luxury reserved for high-class explorers. The interior's splendor exceeded Leonard's imagination. he began to wonder if B-rank explorers really held that much status. He quietly thought Team Aquamarine might be bigger and stronger than he'd initially judged. Clara, the hall attendant, greeted them with a smile and helped with the new member registration. Clara announced that with Leonard joining, the official member count would be 3. Leonard froze slightly. The number felt small for this hall's scale. To complete the paperwork, Clara asked Leonard about his combat specialty to record the team's overall capabilities. Suddenly, a rude explorer nearby sneered, calling Leonard merely Miss Fran's toy. Leonard shot a glance at Fran to ask if he should deal with the loudmouth, but she waved it off, used to this sort of thing. The rude man wouldn't stop. He kept belittling Leonard as filler for a tiny team, flicking his cup as he spoke. Unexpectedly, Leonard reached out, a move so fast no one could react. In an instant, he appeared right beside the rude fellow. Leonard's movement was so quick it left a blur in the air. His blade flashed out like lightning, cold steel gleaming across the hall. The tip of the sword pressed against the explorer's throat, freezing him in place, as sweat streamed down his ashen face from fear. Leonard casually turned to Clara and asked if that performance was enough for her to assess his skills. The whole room fell absolutely silent. Clara, stunned, stammered her agreement and asked where Leonard was from to finish the remaining in. Leonard considered that, based on Marion's earlier reaction, he must not reveal Arcadia as his origin. But staying silent forever wasn't an option either. He sheathed his sword and walked away, while the rude man still hadn't recovered from the near-throat slash. Finally, he decided to make up a name, the Kingdom of Kyrgyz. It was the only country that came to mind then. Clara stamped the form. Thus, Leonard's registration into Team Aquamarine was officially complete. Procedure complete, Clara handed back the papers with a radiant smile. Fran couldn't hide her excitement now that her team finally had a new member. Leonard turned to tell Fran that everything here was settled, maintaining his usual calm demeanor. Hearing this, Fran was so overjoyed she forgot all captainly dignity and shouted in wild excitement. While Fran enthusiastically welcomed Leonard's official entry into Team Aquamarine, Marion stood behind them, putting a hand to her forehead and sighing in exasperation. Fran told Leonard he could take the day off and suggested he stroll around the city to get a feel for it. Leonard looked at Fran seriously, affirming he was also eager to work with everyone on upcoming missions. But instead of sightseeing, Leonard seemed to be plotting something more important, smiling with a hint of mischief. He asked Fran for a favor. Looks like the city tour would have to wait. The giant wooden doors of a stately mansion slowly opened to welcome the new guest. The click of high heels on the wooden floor rang steadily as they walked deeper inside. They'd arrived at the Tower of Arcane Arts to meet Esther. A voice from inside invited Leonard in. Apparently, Fran had told her a lot about. Leonard stepped into a sunlit room, curious about the person he was about to meet. Archmage Esther appeared with an air of haughty grace, and upon seeing Leonard remarked that he didn't look like a mage at all. She arched an eyebrow in suspicion, asking why someone who looked like a swordsman would want to study magic. Around Esther, objects began to float on powerful mana as she asked Leonard to explain the whole story to her. A steaming cup of tea was prepared and ready for a serious discussion about magic. Leonard explained that after being swallowed by spatial magic in the previous battle, he realized he needed a way to counter that kind of energy. Esther listened pensively, her eyes drilling into Leonard as if assessing his true strength. Esther nodded in understanding. She realized Leonard's aim wasn't simply to become a magic swordsman, but to patch a deadly weakness of his. She stood up, asserting that the best way to learn magic was to let the body adapt to it directly, and promised to use the quickest method available. In Esther's hand was a shimmering soulstone, engraved with complex magical conduit. Leonard watched intently, a little anxious. She brought the stone close to Leonard's chest, explaining that absorbing it would help his body quickly adapt to the flow of mana. The stone began to melt and seep into Leonard's chest. Esther assured him the process would be simple, unless his body was unusually odd. Her eyes flashed a radiant golden light as she guided the mana transmutation process. Esther smiled gently, thinking that as a senior member of Aquamarine, it was her duty to mentor the new recruit. Suddenly, Leonard groaned in pain, sweating profusely as the mana invaded his body, and he collapsed from the internal shock. Esther was stunned by the violent reaction. For a normal person, absorbing a mana conduit should have been extremely smooth. A fierce blast of blue energy erupted from Leonard, blowing everything around him away. Esther realized there was something extremely unusual about this sword emperor's body.